Holler if you hear me, and welcome to tonight's edition of Art Uncensored. This is a special edition because we are going to be going up tomorrow. First thing tomorrow morning, early tomorrow morning for me. Today was a test run for that, but now also tomorrow morning, I will be heading out to Chicago for my first ever trip to the one and only C2E2. Not just any convention, but one of I would say four major comic conventions in the United States, between MegaCon down in Orlando, the first con that I would ever regularly go to. There's New York Comic Con, and of course the much vaunted San Diego Comic Con, all the way over there in the land of the Top Gun Academy and an awful lot of burritos out there. But hey, that's a little bit of what that is like down there. And I've already got things ready to go. But because of all of that, I thought tonight we would do something a little easier because of everything I've been doing to get stuff packed and get things ready, going through the itinerary over and over and over again. There's things I've brought in for the three major and these two big artists there that I would go to, which is Arthur Adams and Frank Cho. And since I don't really have back issues of Frank Cho work, but I do have a lot of collections, including this Savage Wolverine that you might be seeing yours truly get signed, and also a decision on which one of these to bring. The vaunted Excalibur Mojo Mayhem one-shot I've owned since living in Orlando, or the original three-issue Monkey Man and O'Brien miniseries right here. Which one of these to bring for Mr. Adams to sign? But tonight we are also really the main thing, for the sake of it, an idea that's been suggested to me for a good long while by Vanessa of the channel here, is to do a retrospective on my massive collection of Playboy, and to do it with one from the 70s. To start with the 70s, and well, we've got 10 of them right here to get through, as I also am getting through some water, because tonight was another one of those where the dinner I had was the other half of the chimichanga package that my mother sent me as part of what she got for the Instacart. The chimichanga package, which was something she added to it, which I definitely thank her for. And there's the kombucha back there, which I maybe should be getting. If you want to see me crack open a bottle of that later, just say so right there in the chat. Hoping the chat will be working fine, because during the premiere today, yes, went through all the effort to have today's video and tomorrow's video recorded and edited and ready to go. And then it's a thing where Weatherman was in the chat there talking about YouTube's chat being defective or broken. And yes, Abe did keep his word about following me on Rumble as well. And, the future, I will be trying to simultaneously stream on, multiple formats like that. Or, as a Culture Casino calls it, the green machine. And when it came to the piggy bank I've got, we got a little penny right here, which I did not actually go out to find. I found this in my closet when I was going through what to pack and what not. And, well, because of how the weather can go up or down, or how in this season, like Chicago, like in Detroit, it's really more potentially the rainy season, but the kind of ice-cold rainy season that will make you shiver. So that nice, good, strong Detroit Institute of the Arts sweatshirt she got me is something I'll be bringing. And right here, in the back it goes. Oh, yes, oh, yes, oh, yes. And also she suggested something to read. And, well, I am going to be bringing this along because, yes, the vaunted X-Men omnibus that contains the Dark Phoenix saga and Days of Future Past, and even the parallel, the Phoenix, the Untold Story, where if Jean Grey had continued on and lived instead of dying, along with also a few annuals, and the vaunted Avengers Annual number 10, the Michael Golden drawn one that is supposed to be a seminal one right there. I remember seeing that when Marvel started doing those Dada reprints of classic back issues before they started doing those facsimile reprints of classic back issues. I remember seeing that but never getting it. And and that's also a big one because it's a Michael Golden work, and it's one of Michael Golden's best known works besides the 12 issues he did of Micronauts, and then in early 90s, the first 12 issues he drew of the comic The Nom, which is actually getting an omnibus reprint earlier this year, which is nice because, the Nom was something, it's one of those comics I've heard about, but the only time I've ever actually come across it was this one trade that was Punisher Invades the Nom, which includes that one shot as well as a few issues of the actual comic itself, which features Frank Castle before becoming the Punisher, since he's the one established Marvel hero that actually makes sense to cross over with the trying to be true to life world of the Nam, what it was trying to recreate and all that. But yeah, and especially that as written by the great Don Lomax, who was a veteran that also did the acclaimed Vietnam comic called Vietnam Journal, which has been kept in print since the 80s through Caliber Press, which is out here, and also originally published The Crow. So we've got that. And yes, it goes all the way from, let's see, issue 132 to issue 132 to issue 153. So it goes well past the end of John Byrne's run as the artist into that time when Dave Cockrum came back on the book, and then eventually he left again and they brought in Paul Smith. So, and you can tell this is actually not, I don't think this is the John Byrne cover that they went and just recolored. It looks to me like, oh yeah, you can tell by the faces right there. That's a different color. Let's see that issue we can compare, because I'm at the major sticker. Oh, and yes, and look, Alpha Flight shows up in this with a Guardian right there, or Captain Canuck, which was a independent superhero out of Canada, who has the exact same costume as the Guardian of Alpha Flight. Strange, but all right, which one's that issue where remember, Phoenix must die, which was Jim Shooter's idea. It was his idea to have her actually go and really die, because just, taking away her powers after she destroyed a planet and all that was, wrong. Understandably so. Oh, yeah, there's right there. And then there's that vaunted cover right there. Definitely, you can tell. But with the 4-hour train ride, I definitely have that. Or if I wind up, still being drowsy while I'm on the train, I can just use that as a pillow. Or my sister recommended me resting on my main suitcase just to try to avoid anybody trying to take anything. All right, and I've got these right here. One thing about showing these Playboys is that because this was when the magazine was still using the staple bound right here, the magazine didn't start printing square bound where you could, have the flat spine where you'd see the month and the year until 1985. And yeah, that's an issue. That was a big deal back in the day, in the mid 80s. That was the equivalent of that time where they decided to stop being nude so that they could get wider circulation. And they did that for a year or so, then stopped. Well, the closest they did a big stunt like that was changing the printing to the square bound style around the same time that you first started seeing comic books get things that were trying to be more more legitimate with doing things like square bound printing, or having stuff made directly to be printed in bookshops, like that Arkham Asylum comic that came out in the summer of when Batman '89 was in theaters. And I'll try to go and show these in the order. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, now I'll try to go in the earliest one chronologically to get through. 74, okay, 74, 74, 79, 74 again, 75. Oh, well, here's the one. Actually, one of them I thought was a 70s issue because of who was on the cover actually is 1969. But hey, when it comes to Playboy of that era of the 60s into the 70s, you can't go wrong with Barbie Benton, the original major girlfriend of Hugh Hefner, that was never a centerfold, but was repeatedly on the cover right there. And on the back, I swear, oh wait, this guy, the actor, looks familiar. It's a Dewar profile. Dewar's White Label. They would do full page ads in Playboy all the time, either inside or on the back. And there's even an issue from the early 90s where they have a Dewar profile on comic artist Dennis Cowan, of all people. And I remember actually once bringing a copy with me to a convention where he was supposed to be there, but then I wound up backing away. But yeah, maybe in the future I can get him to sign that at a different convention. But Jerry Orbach now. The look familiar. He looks like one of those guys from Law and Order. Let's go and look that up. As we've got this issue right here. Let me look at that. All right. Yep, it is. Yeah, it's that one guy from Law and Order. Let me share the screen with you to show what I mean by this. Settings. Oh, no, wait, wrong one. Not settings. Present. With this, I've been now doing almost more than a month now of doing StreamYards, but yeah, that guy. If you ever either was flipping through like prime time on NBC throughout the '90s, you would have at least seen like a bit of Law and Order and seen those actors, or TNT showing the reruns of it endlessly. And yeah, that's him then, and this is the gentleman now. I mean, well, whatever that is, but at this time, 1969, he was 33, right here, with Scotsman, Little Piper, Dewar's never varies. Okay. 40 fine whiskies from the hills and glens of Scotland are blended into every drop of Dewar's white label. Then one by one, they're brought together by the skilled hand of the master blender of Perth. Well, okay. Let's see. Home, New York, New York. His profession, actor, of course. Hobbies, one of the best pool players in show business. Well, maybe I'll challenge him to a game if I ever saw the guy in person. Last book read, Portnoy's Complaint. Last accomplishment, the star of Broadway's musical comedy hit Promises, Promises. Quote, I feel responsible for the success or failure of the show every evening. If I'm not up, the show suffers. Well, I think he was the longest running guy in that Law and Order cast, so maybe that transferred from the theater to TV. Profile, a quick and facile wit, shy off stage, strong convictions that enable him to hold out for the kinds of roles he wants to play. Scotch, Dewar's white label. Well, that's the way it ends. I know they thought I'd be if you came in here late, you'd think I'd be doing it with the right here, our the profile of our lady right here. But hey, you want to learn a little bit more about this lady right here? I'll show you a bit more. Said she pretty much became this almost unofficial mascot for Playboy, besides the bunny logo itself. But oh well, there we go. Give a little. We'll just go through the Wikipedia and see this now. The present. Oh, there we go. Yes. Actually, birth name Barbara Lynn Klein. Oh yes, she's a Schmingles and the Schmungles and the Schmeckles and the Schmengles. An American former model, actress, television personality, and singer, she appeared in Playboy as a regular on the comedy series Hee Haw and recorded several moderately successful albums in the 1970s. After the birth of her first child in 1986, she retired from show business. Well, no, it's I actually have my father would tell me about her albums all the time. I don't think he ever owned any of them, but he did also tell me about the show Hee Haw, where that was a variety show back in the 70s that would have it was almost sort of like a proto blue collar comedy thing where there'd be guys, there'd be it was supposed to be like a farmer's it was supposed to be on a ranch, and it was all these sexy ladies around him that I believe were supposed to be his daughters, and they were called the Hee Haw Honeys, and they would have music and variety show song numbers like that. And Benton did go from Playboy to there, and then leverage the national exposure from Hee Haw into recording, I believe, country albums, because this one used comic and record store where I found a bunch of new Playboys a few months ago. They actually did go there, and when I went there, they had in the back, they had vinyl records and they had CDs, and included Barbie Benton vinyl records. But since I don't own a record player, it'd be a little strange to get that. Unless I was going to go and put them up on eBay or something. And it's also fitting that I do this before my first trip ever to the city where Playboy itself was actually founded back in the mid-50s. Yeah, and the original headquarters there and the original mansion that was out there where and of course, when Barbie Benton became, the apple of Hefner's eye, it was her being a college student out there, I believe at UCLA. That's what led to her being the one who, looked out for the famous California Playboy mansion that's become a major detail ever since. Yes, but also now Jewish. No, Klein. Now 2 children there. And we've got Vanessa in the chat right now, so that is nice. Everybody say hello to Vanessa popping in with if only the generation, if Sydney Sweeney had been born maybe 2 generations earlier, I could have seen her being offered to do Playboy and probably, saying yes to it. That would have been fun. Well, now I see the magazine is trying to go back to print doing, things in actual physical print form. And also they're getting away. Playboy now is also dialing away from the woke crap. So maybe they're going to go and do things like, whatever it would take to get Sydney Sweeney to be in here. I certainly would enjoy it. No, maybe a Hooters themed one. That would be fun as a play on the Saturday Night Live bit she did. What's that? Woo hoo. Yes, right here. Whoop whoop. Hocus pocus, Trabentan. Oh, for going for the party line. Juggling, juggling, dangerous. Well, I mean, this was taken a decade ago, but I mean, they still look fine when she would have been in her 60s at that point. Oh, this is here now. All right, born New Yorker to a Jewish family. Okay. Gynecologist father and a mother was an investment counselor. Okay, so, and that generation that still would have been, the stay-at-home mother and all of that, being born in 1950. But no, she was an investment counselor, apparently. But yeah, born in New York, grew up, raised in Sacramento, and apparently knew Joan London, that lady who I remember seeing on this A&E special about WCW. Okay. Yes. Sydney play on for the Hooters girl. Well, I actually do. When going through back issues for this one tonight, I did find the one from the mid 90s that had a Girls of Hooters cover spread. It's very, very nice. That. And I remember seeing that like on display on the wall there when, for one of the times I visited Las Vegas, my father and I, we stayed at the Hooters Casino Hotel. Let's see. And apparently she also was dating Jay Johnson of the Warhol Superstars. Jay also was a pianist and scuba diver. That's nice. And did a tea room modeling of department stores while in school. Okay. She was studying to be a veterinarian at UCLA, but, decided against that because she didn't like the sight of blood, apparently. And hey, whatever. Or, of course, this picture of the famous Playboy After Dark show. That was like a talk show of the, it was a talk show that Hugh Hefner actually hosted that had all kinds of guests, and you can still find footage of that online if you look hard enough. It ran for a bit, and before Hee Haw, that was Benton's like big TV exposure after she, got swept into his little world. And then again, remember, never centerfold, but repeatedly appeared on many covers, and many men of that generation were very much, enthralled by her and, helped make men out of them. Like even Adam Hughes, when I was still on Twitter, I followed Adam Hughes on Twitter, and there was, I believe it was this very issue of Playboy. He posted an old picture of himself in like a grade school age, and there he is with this Playboy like this. Now, very, very interested. And then decades later, he winds up actually doing illustrations for the magazine. And also there was that one famous Wizard magazine interview where Hughes talks about how he didn't go to art school. What he needed to do to learn how to draw was that he had a light box, tracing paper, and a stack of Playboys. Well, but yet people are okay, love his work, and those Rich Johnston types, don't have a bad thing to say about him, but then they bash Greg Land for photo referencing. Fuck them all. And that lady over here kind of looks like a Gloria Steinem, actually. Spend that lady over there. And there's Benton back there. As you can tell, similar to that Benton. There's the Hefner. Even then, he was a creepy little guy. Zoom that out. Zoom that lady back there. And yes. And started modeling at 16. Going to UCLA, she took a job with Playboy to appear at Playboy After Dark at age 18. Well, I believe in the 60s, there was a controversy where they had a centerfold who actually was underage when they had her appear, and that like her mom helped her lie about her age in order to get the model release to do all that. I can't remember the name exactly. I'll get back to you on that one later, but I know that such a controversy existed. But then apparently she was there just to be an extra, just to be, to stand there and look hot. But then Hugh Hefner, got to look crazy and wound up making her his co-host. And apparently after recording 2 episodes, Hefner asked the young co-ed for a date. Upon being asked, she reportedly demurred to the then 42-year-old Hefner. I don't know. I've never dated anyone over 24 before. To which Hefner replied, "That's all right. Neither have I." Creepy as fuck. No, does that guy look like if you just looked at Hugh Hefner at any point in his life, just cold called, did not know who he was and showed him to you? Was he does he look the kind of guy who had a lot of riz? Or no, he came off the kind of guy where even other guys would look at him like hitting on a lady and go, dude, look at that guy. The guy who probably, even at any point in his life, he always came off like the kind of guy who, because he was rich, he thought he could just say what and do whatever. And because he was so rich or so well known, that women would just immediately flock to him. And when you have that type of, women like that just flocking to you that way, naturally going to you that way, then you don't actually have to try to have the charm or the personality or, actually being anything to really, 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 would be worthwhile to keep a woman around, especially when you have the type of wealth and privilege you're providing, whatever, where, oh no, you can just buy them, his own little fiefdom. Like for a guy who was so progressive, why is it then that he had his little get up where it was like the same old thing from any sheik or sultan or king from ancient times, where they have them in their palace of opulence, where they never have to set foot outside of there if they don't want to, and just have whatever women in entertainment at their beck and call, like that. But of course, going back to that, I've never dated anyone over 24 quote, and smiling about that, that was pretty much something that my father actually was like smiling and laughing about when he would bring that up, or he was reminded of that quote, or he would like tell me or someone else about that. He would be, like a smiling and all that. That doesn't come off like a. But and no wonder, much like any other guy that wanted that hef lifestyle but couldn't get it or never did get it and tried to, well, the same problem they have, guys like that, guys like my father or Hefner, the same problem they have with any woman in their life. They eventually start talking. Then again, remember, male feminists are the same way, and comparing male feminists to a guy like Hefner or whatever, there actually is something, strangely, darkly honest about them just dating, using women for their bodies and then throwing them away and being honest about it or whatever, as opposed to a guy like a Vosh or a guy like a Joss Whedon, who probably, grew up and his academic feminist mother probably punished him irrationally for catching him with Playboy. And then he went out of his way to go and make sure that after that, and him having natural desires and for women that a man would have, natural attraction to women that men would have, and because of the crazy, insane feminist upbringing and all that, it scrambled his brain and all of that. So it became a situation where instead of having any kind of healthy, rational way of treating women, it becomes a thing of using the feminist ideology as a smokescreen for him being a conniving, entitled little bastard that just wants to use and dispose of women like a Hugh Hefner would or my father would. But yeah, of course, somehow he thinks he's better. And that's that. But still, at the end of the day, as lecherous as that was, she still wound up dating him. So yeah, and also for Mr. Hefner being so progressive and always, using the format, using his platform for so many great progressive rights and so many great thinkers and writers and all that. Then why is it that this little lady born Klein? He's the one who insisted her to change her last name to Benton, saying that it was more marketable. Right here. Yeah, either that or, Hugh Hefner was ahead of his time in being pro-Palestine. So that's why he didn't want, to date a lady that had Klein as her last name. Use her for pleasure and profit, having her go and be all over his magazine, like in this issue, but then also at the very same time go out of his way to make sure that, putting her in the magazine so he can get all the money and all the circulation, knowing, hey, I can give her a less Jewish last name and have her shake her ass in the magazine. I'll get all kinds of profits, and then also have her as my, quote unquote girlfriend that I can go and just, hump whatever, and then all right. So yeah, I'm winning twice, brother. Like that quote from Joe Dirt about when he's with the Indian guy and telling him about, hey, you can do whatever, fireworks and shove them off a bullfrog's ass or whatever. Like, I would never do that. I'm going to be a veterinarian. Well, that's great. You go sell some guy fireworks. He shoves them up a bullfrog's butt, blows it up. He brings them to you. You put them back together. You win twice, brother. You get Barbie Benton, you go, you change her last name, put her in the magazine, then you take her home, you fuck her. You win twice, brother. She makes you money and she makes you come. What? Dang. And let's see. And yes, she is credited with persuading Hefner to buy the famous Playboy mansion in Holmby Hills in 1974, which is one of those things where if you ever go on those star tours around LA, with like those trucks, those kind of like London buses where they have the guy on the microphone like this, and all that. And TMZ now has those as like a side business for them. Yeah, they do that with the and you'll go past that around Holmby Hills and you'll see the way to get inside is this like gate with this large rock next to it, and then you go up that and it's this winding road to get up there to then get to the vaunted mansion. more like the Haunted Mansion, but then again, it was haunted long before then. Hefner still, between reality TV and all kinds of other multimedia appearances, as much as a frail old stroke victim as he looked, still having him going around like that. And hell, Benton, I remember something else seeing about Hefner where when Hefner had a stroke in the 70s, there was Benton with him and was trying to help him regain his speech and regain those things. No, but then again, Hefner being the kind of guy who was able to keep his, money around him, so he went off, and was able to get himself a nice, he was able to keep living on and free of consequences, except for the consequences his own body had against him. Let's see, she was on the cover 4 times. This right here being the first one. Yes. Not a nice little thing to have. Although because she was not a centerfold, that means that we don't know about the turn-ons and the turn-offs and, what book she read or what movie she's into. Although we do get these nice illustrations in here. I think this was the era of when they had Shel Silverstein as an illustrator for them, as well as doing other kinds of cartoons, including this one right here. Very nice. This is the best stuff I know to relieve the distressing symptoms of cold sobriety. I don't like the look of this. It's only July. And there's Father Time going right there. The police sketch guy thought I was messing with him. Since my dad came out looking like Father Time, my mom was way too butch. I looked too much like that Night Stalker guy. Here's a nice full page, fully colored illustration I can show you. Of course, you won't be seeing any of the naked ladies here, but we can go and describe the centerfold turn-ons and turn-offs and all that stuff. I will be showing that. There's those ladies right. Oh, wait. Let's do a little bit of that. And you see this? To show you that illustration. Very nice, ain't it? And the caption says, "Watch it. The last pair I picked up turned out to be hitching a ride to a drag queen festival." Oh. Well, that's one from 1969 that is actually still very much relevant to this day. It traverses the event horizon and becomes relevant all over again. I don't want to make... Here's one. It's a cocktail party. There's a guy talking to a black man right there. See that? And what is he saying? "I don't want to make any social blunders. What are you people calling yourselves these days?" Oh, no. What do you mean, you people? What do you mean, you people? Oh. Here's one. Inverhouse imported rare scotch. Lots of booze, lots of tobacco, and lots of stereo systems. That was another thing when it comes to Playboy over the years, joking about the articles. Oh, I read them for the articles, but also about stereos. What was Hugh Hefner's fixation on stereos? If you remember the opening of the Ladies' Man movie, where it's actually supposed to be the Chicago Playboy Mansion back in like the 60s or before he moved out to LA, and he's found in the basket there. He's raised by Hugh Hefner as a son, and he learned everything about art and life and stereo systems. Well, maybe then the Ladies' Man, but if he didn't go into radio, he would have had a good, prosperous career, running his own electronics store, like Don Cheadle at the end of Boogie Nights, except hopefully he doesn't get it funded by, taking the money that was meant to be in a robbery at a donut shop, but then everybody wound up shooting everybody else dead. We've got some ugly dudes and black and white right here. On the scene, Hal Prince, King of Broadway. Okay. I'm not a Broadway expert, so I do not know. Then there's this man, Gilbert Kaplan down there. And then this guy looks like an even uglier Ringo Starr. They've got a full-page tobacco ad in this one, but I'm surprised there's one that was a famous tobacco ad that was a full-page ad that would be in magazines like Playboy or even like Cosmopolitan and all that, where it was of a young Martha Stewart, and she's smoking and she's got a black eye, and it's like, I'd rather fight than give up this brand of cigarettes. It's not this brand. I don't think so. But hey, it's still fun. And now we've got you see this cartoon right there? Nice, good little, fun with ink wash. Yes. One of Hefner's aspirations before the Playboy took off was, I believe, to be a cartoonist. So that's probably why, as long as he was around, and in like the heyday of the magazine, he always had so many little cartoons in there. Like you look at the New Yorker, and they'll have a few in there, but here, in this day when it was really him in charge of everything, instead of just lounging around, there would be, there's cartoon, like every other page I'm flipping through, there's one of those cartoons, including full page, full colored cartoons as well. And also, he was a friend in college of Lee Falk, who created the Phantom. They both went to the same university together. And then later on, when the Phantom finally got a movie, that's why in the beginning of the Phantom movie, there's the big charity ball scene with Christy Swanson talking to the villain and all that. And it's actually the Playboy Mansion. Yeah, but as I think out of a whole thing of Lee Falk and Hugh after being friends, so I think it was that Hefner volunteered the mansion be featured in the movie. There's an illustration here by Brad Holland, but it's a naked lady, so I don't think I can show that. Remember, I get a probation for a members-only community post that shows artwork of naked ladies, but Vosh can say and show whatever he wants because he's got money and the right politics. And there's this one. Another nice little full-colored illustration right there. Nice, good old, Westerns were definitely in the doldrums by the late 60s. And you see that right there. Got all the Stagecoach chasing. I believe actually around this time there was a remake of Stagecoach with Anne Margaret, and the caption on this reads, hold up so you know what I'm looking at. "We can't stop now, ma'am. We should have gone before we left Tucson." Get it? "The public be damned." Article by Justice William O. Douglas. Here's this weird ass tiki torch looking thing, or some really, really demented bookend. "Somebody owes me money," continued from page 105. And well, here's some naked ladies I can't be showing you. I mean, she's very nice. I mean, she looks nice. I don't know how she is as a person. I've never spoken with the lady. I wouldn't know. I'm not one of those that immediately sees, a model or actress or whatever, and then goes to, Tina Fey mode of calling her a bitch or that she's slut or she's a slut or that she's stupid, unless she's immediately spending all her social media screaming out some feminist cause. The Three Sisters of Nar, humor by Roger Price. I'll have to look that name up later. A Breath of Lucifer, fiction by R.K. Narayan. Narayan or Narayan? Got some other ladies here, except this is mainly an article about dune buggies, but there are some topless women in there. But we do have this image that looks like it came. This is the opening image. It looks like it came straight from a Terrence Malick movie. Like, tell me this if you took Days of Heaven and set it in the desert, this would be it. I drink that. Oh, doggy. Let's see. We've got, this is also back when Alberto Vargas, the great pinup painter, was still working for Playboy, regularly getting a monthly piece in there. Like in that giant pinup coffee table book, that was one of my Christmas presents. Well, that's one. I don't think I can show that one. I mean, well, she's topless, but she's got a green towel over, her crotch, but still, I remember this is this is way back then when my father was in college, so she wouldn't have been shaved. Slaves or masters? The budding science of robotics is producing a legion of sapient cybernauts bearing a bag of mixed blessings. So, new technology fears, same as before. Article by David Rorvik. Do not know who he is, but you can always count on the fancy pants magazines like this giving you these nice 2-page spreads to introduce you to everything. I wonder that, well, they usually have an illustrator credited. Illustration by Tom Strobel. When it comes to comic book people, in the 90s, Charles Burns, before he did that comic Black Hole, did a lot of work for Playboy doing these like first page like article illustrations. Cool stuff. I saw a piece of this in the last time that Bo Derek posed for the magazine, the year before Tommy Boy was in theaters. Yeah. And there was a profile on Jim Carrey because that was the summer he really blew up. And I remember the article about him. They mentioned the famous thing where in 1990, Jim Carrey signed himself a check for $10 million to be able to cash within 5 years. And well, actually, as the article I remember saying, he underestimated his value because by 1994, the three films he had all in that one year, but he went from like, I think like Scale for Ace Ventura to then like hundreds of thousands for The Mask. But then when he did Dumb and Dumber, he got like, I think a 12.5 million. So yeah, he already exceeded his goal in under the time he set for himself. Here's one. We've got some nice little cartoon like that, fully colored. And says, Indians, head for the Fort Bigfoot, and I will stay here and try to hold them. Yeah, it's two naked ladies right there. Vanessa, you never heard of that story about Jim Carrey, the famous $10 million check to cash in 5 years? Yeah, that's I remember Daniel Tosh making fun of that when he talked about something, an interview he did before I think he even had his show in Comedy Central, where he said, when I reach this age or like a certain age, I'm gonna go and take my own life. And he said that it was a joke on when comedians set goals for themselves in their career. And he mentions Jim Carrey setting himself a $10 million check. And he's like, what happens if 5 years later you don't do it? You go to the bank, you're like, oh, yeah, sorry, sir, you don't have $10 million. Yes, it was the 1990, the year that Living Color premiered. Jim Carrey was said to have wrote himself a $10 million check to cash 5 years later. And well, by the around the remember, Dumb and Dumber came out Christmas 1994, and that he got 12.5 million for this even smaller budgeted than anything else he had done that year comedy, where it was a little road movie with first time directors, which I think had a smaller budget than that Ace Ventura had. But let's do some comparisons right there. If Wikipedia is to be trusted, we'll compare Ace Ventura to Dumb and Dumber, box office wise. All right, right. And now let's go and you see right there, Ace Ventura is the best there is. In fact, he's the only one there is. February 94. Okay, I wouldn't have even been two then. 15 million. Okay. Well, let's see if they reference Dumb and Dumber here to follow. So no, we'll have to go and they do bring up Cannibal Corpse. Yes. Cannibal Corpse and their song Hammer Smashed Face that they perform. Dumb and Dumber. Actually, wait, Dumb and Dumber was bigger by 2 million, but also did bigger box office. 247 million with the 17 million budget, so just two more than that. But Ace Ventura, wow. Now in the middle, let's compare that to The Mask, what the Mask box office was. Oh, there we go. Between 18 to 23 million, 351 million. Well, yeah, there is the famous story of what happened with that. Yep. So it went from like a scale to like 325,000 to 12.5 million within a year. And remember, he was doing Ace Ventura and The Mask also as In Living Color was in its final season, where he was still the big thing of doing where he would, but that final season of Living Color, he was basically the star of the show because the Wayans family had all quit in protest. So it was him, and they brought all these new white people. Nope. It was like, okay, Ace Ventura did well, and then The Mask was an honest to God blockbuster, and Dumb and Dumber, but all three of them, mid 90s, that was still like a time when having like 100 million box office was still like a big deal. Instead of having it be where now, movies have to get 100 million in the opening weekend, or else it's considered a bomb by the first weekend. And hello to Weatherman right here, right now. Yes, and I bet you probably also want to go and let's see, looking at a little bit of our friend Barbie Benton right here, because the first issue we're looking at is the first cover appearance of Barbie Benton right there. And yes, the bra she's got down there is meant to be shaped like the bunny logo, because Playboy would always do that with every cover. They hide the Playboy bunny logo in it somewhere. And that's, a little more obvious than others. Well, I cannot show you the centerfold, but I will describe to you her, little profile there. Oh, wait, do we have it? I'm here. Apparently not. Maybe they didn't have that little detail there of, the likes and dislikes and all that stuff yet. Or maybe it's on the other side. Apparently not. No. Okay. And also in this one, not every photo of her is nude. So I can show you these are the centerfold. And it's okay. All black and white, all fully clothed. Oh, yeah. Weatherman was right. Barbie Benton was a cute girl. I'll say this when it comes to the description that Hugh Hefner gave of like the centerfold being the perfect idea of the girl next door. You can look at, our little Miss Benton right here. Definitely, fits the bill. Even with the Farrah Fawcett hair she's got, even with her being a brunette, she looks more like makes her look more like Kate Jackson, like a sexier Kate Jackson. If you've seen the classic Charlie's Angels like I have. Let's see, somebody, oh wait, here's somebody owes me money. And here's I'll go to this one here, the illustration right there. What I said about whether it's articles or whether it's stories or whatever, that Playboy, these magazines like this would always have these very, very eye-catching illustrations to open them off. Now, these are the artists here in this days of these advertising firms. They would earn their check. Look at that. And this was years before Taxi Driver was in theaters. So those type of, the gritty urban drama wasn't really all over the place yet. But hold on, I gotta go in. Oh, thank you. The center bar of the drafting table saved those from falling. So let me go and just take care of the. Oh, there we go. Got a little something over here. Oh yeah. Just gotta plug this boy in. That's my sister wants a phone, iPhone, MacBook, all fully charged. I am also charging the batteries for my Nikon and all that. One of the batteries in my Nikon I accidentally put in backwards, so I had to go and take super glue to glue a little screw onto the end of it to be able to pull it out. It worked, and well, yes. These are classic articles. Well, and Somebody Owes Me Money is part one of a novel by Donald E. Westlake. It says right here. I've heard the name, but I can't tell you anything about his work. But let's see. Illustration. Doug Johnson. It's actually a signature there in the corner. Okay. And yes. I've got vintage 70s Playboys. The only ones from a decade I don't have a Playboy from the 50s. Although, of course, the further back you go, the more likely it is to get them that are, a lot more expensive. Well, I haven't gotten any notifications during the stream so far. I think, maybe my sister might be sleeping on a matter of, she's getting up early as much as I'm getting up early and all that. So, the stream and all of that. Last thing I have to do is some dishes and do the last little check of the itinerary and look for some things to get things packed and all of that. And once this little boy right here is charged and the Mac and the iPhone is charged and all that, wrap all that up. And also, I actually had a nice little bit of my mother emailed me earlier today. My mom emailed me about the card that I sent out. She actually got that, liked it, accepted it, and all that. And even with everything I said in there about her being right about my dad for all these years, she still was. Actually, I can. I'll say this since I didn't delete those. Yes. What a lovely card! I'm excited for your trip. Your loyalty to your father throughout his illness made me proud and grateful to YouTube that I had a window into your sharing. I was with you praying all the way. Now be free and be careful. Love always, Mom. Well, because in the card, I don't remember the exact wording, but basically I did tell her that she was right about him all the time. She was right about him the whole time. And now with the life that was, completely under his thumb, COVID lockdowns, people saying about, their social lives or their lives paused or were isolated because of COVID. Well, it was already, under his thumb and isolated and all of that, even before COVID. So people about, the time they lost and how that built up and how they're trying to, get their life back and all that. Well, for me, it's been 15 years of, pretty much being stuck and all of that. So now it's a matter of not just being terminally online and actually being able to really live a life with, a real social life and real girlfriend and all that. Which or as I said to my mother responding to that, it means a lot to me that you liked it. I'm excited for this trip to make my first step into the world and a life out from under my dad's thumb. And she responded with simply, I know the feeling with ellipses. Yes. That's a little bit. Or as my mother also says, another one, God wants you to be happy. You deserve it. Well, it's now that's got me imagining the Cody Rhodes, the Monday Night Raw after WrestleMania last year. And I, whereas saying there, Vanessa, so sorry. Well, now it's the leave that life and leave all that stuff in the past, and actually now really make something of really make something of my own life. Now that it's not a matter of me having to go and live up to someone else's burdens or be under some man's control, some guy's control, some jackass's control, and all that. That's what I'm moving away from, and that's what that's what this is going to be doing. That's what this show, that's what this trip is. That's what all this exposure, all this interaction is going to be doing. All of this to get up in there and finally see some other things. Like this nice little UFO right here, which actually, wait, let's move the frame a little bit. Let's look at this illustration and frame with this. Nice, isn't it? Let's see. John, quick, Jane Wiseman is eloping. That's one of those where, I mentioned how many cartoons are in your ad. If this was like the average about how almost like every fourth page is in Playboy, this era is a cartoon, it's almost like the New Yorker. And I say that like with the New Yorker, with those cartoons where you have to like pause and think about them. Like in Family Guy, where Peter's trying to be smarter. He goes to the New Yorker and he looks at the cartoon and then he looks at it. And then the sun rises and sets, rises and sets, rises and sets. And then he's still there. It's like, oh, yeah, that's kind of funny. Like, I remember actually for a while, I had a subscription to the New Yorker when I was in high school. And I remember one cartoon, it was Hamlet's Duplex. And all it showed was two doors, one labeled 2B, the other labeled not 2B. Although that's a bit more obvious, though, than, the type of what the stereotypical thing of that magazine is for. The Executive Stiletto, article by Lawrence Linderman. The lettering there, but yeah, that has to be an M, an R, and an M, but the R and M kind of running together. Linderman. Pink slips are passe. Today, excising the unwanted employee is accomplished with diabolical subtlety. Well, new headline, same as the old headline. So, cheers. It's like my big spree of reading through all the kinds of different Ayn Rand nonfiction books, and the subjects she's talking about and the way she's talking about them sound like every new media YouTuber and all of that of your Steven Crowder variety are all just saying what Ayn Rand was writing about, making speeches about at colleges and all that, all the way back in the early 1960s, not even when the whole free speech movement counterculture shit was going on yet. There's the outs and ins of sunmanship, but there's naked ladies in this, so yeah, no thanks. I can't show you these naked ladies. I can't show you attractive women, laying about naked, even if they're not nude in the photo, but they're clearly naked and chest down up against a man. But I can show you the myth of a balanced federal budget. What was I saying about, same stuff, same new shit, same as the old shit? Well, you've got J. Paul Getty writing an article about the myth of a balanced federal budget. A master of profitable enterprise defends Uncle Sam's right to run in the red. Okay. That's a good thing. And from the same defense of the political party that wound up applauding Bill Clinton because budget surplus. If you remember that. All right. Sometimes a simple illustration can also be effective. Kind of looks like the Gonzo journalism logo. If you remember that one that Hunter Thompson had when he ran for office. And of course, I got more naked ladies, but these naked ladies are birds of America, and they're doing some kind of Photoshop where the lower part of these naked ladies are different birds. like some kind of like either somewhere between a furry's nightmare or that scene in House of a Thousand Corpses where Rainn Wilson's body is like used as a sculpture to make a mermaid, and they attached his upper body, upper part of his corpse to a mermaid statue they have. But I can show you these very, very nice slacks. Slacks, and I think they are, and hats and all that. I think they're hats. Letting Go. A reporter appraises the growing movement away from the cerebral and towards spontaneous sensuality. Article by Robert Kaiser. Okay, and these started things that you would see at like an art museum, and you're like, oh wait, yeah. Or like the most basic shape, like a lot of, the more like representational artists, this would be like the earliest stage of them laying in their colors and laying their basic shapes. But then they go in and with the finer brushes, detail things. This one, you got the basic shape of the naked man and the naked woman like Adam and Eve and went, all right, that's it. That one had a fat dude with a shirt off. No thanks. This is another one where it's a fiction by Evan Hunter called Beginnings, but the opening illustration, naked lady. Then we've got the interview, Meister Brau Draft. Full page right there, Meister. Yes. Never heard of this brand of beer, but it's German, so. If I went to Oktoberfest, you might find it there. Fleischmann's Distilled Dry Gin. Gin Martini. Stirred. We've got... Oh, everything great you can imagine happens on Playboy After Dark. Full page ad for that show. That's where Barbie Benton first got there, and then from there started dating Hefter, and then appeared on the magazine multiple times. Oh yeah, the interview, Rod Steiger. I might remember either from In the Heat of the Night, that movie that was big in the late 60s, and there was a TV show of it in the 80s starring Carol O'Connor that used to re-air on TBS all the time. I never watched the show, but it would be on. It was one of those shows where it would be like on, or I would see it on, and I would change the channel. And of course, also The General and Mars Attacks, the one that they shrink down to the size of a gnat and then step on him. That guy, yeah. Falstaff beer. If you want to feel Shakespearean while getting drunk off your ass, try Falstaff. That's for my theater people out there. We got a lot of letters in here. Let's Hypocrites or Robots. That's the name of this letter here from Ben Eastman in Sebring, Florida. Name withheld by request from Tuscaloosa, Alabama, from a letter labeled Judge of the Year. Oh, State of the Nation. This one from Poole Anderson, Orinda, California. Poole Anderson was an acclaimed science fiction writer of like the 60s and 70s. He did a lot of work there, a lot of work that's actually still kept in print to this day. If you go to like a Barnes & Noble science fiction section, you'll find his work like, I'm trying to remember, let me go and check out them. I was about to say something, but I think that's a different author who has a just similar name. Poole Anderson. Oh yeah, I know this guy. He was one of those science fiction writers that was so damn prolific that there's a separate Wikipedia article just for his just for his work, because he was one of those science fiction writers that started out in all those magazines that they would have. Those magazines you'd be getting paid like a penny a word or whatever. Then he would do novels or whatever, like Brainwave or Flight to Forever. That started out in the 50s and then kept on going up until the day he died. Okay. I've got one as a Playboy and Religion. One is labeled, one of these letters. I remember seeing an interview that Terry Bradshaw did in the 70s, and he mentioned about Jesus and about how, trying to explain how Jesus would be into Playboy. The Reverend Alan Dixon from Vancouver Heights in British Columbia. British Columbia, the birthplace of Pam Anderson, actually. Paddlin' Madeline. That's the name of this letter from Edwin H. Wilson, editor of the Religious Humanism. Sex is Obsolete, from a letter down in North Palm Beach, Florida. Okay. I remember there was a skit that Val Kilmer did on Saturday Night Live when he hosted in 2000, and it was as that 2000 election was going on, and it was like a segment of Jeb Bush and Jeb Bush being involved with, W. Bush and all that with the recount in Florida. And it was made to look like a soap opera called Palm Beach with Val Kilmer before he got fat playing Jeb Bush. That's probably one of those bits of Saturday Night Live you actually have to go to Peacock and watch the show, or maybe it's something that gets like leaked to TikTok, because I've seen a bunch of Saturday Night Live skits that, like, you look them up or whatever, you won't find them on their YouTube channel, but they have been pirated up to TikTok. Like the couple of times that David Duchovny hosted the Saturday Night Live in the 90s, and there was the Mango skit he did, and the other one was an Cold Open skit where it's an actual X-Files parody where they have Molly Shannon as Scully, and they brought in the actual actor playing Krychek off the show to appear because he's supposed to be having an affair with Will Ferrell's Janet Reno impression. And it was done after Krychek got the arm cut off, and they paid enough attention to the show to make it where, no, he's acting like, oh wait, yeah, he's got like a rubber arm. He's got a prop arm because using the gun, they cut the arm off to avoid the black oil infection. I can't because sex and nudity policy. There's a swim into summer. There's also a letter coming from Robert Shaw, but not the Robert Shaw from Jaws. Robert Shaw, an MD out of Boston. Also, a Leonard Krasner, professor and director of clinical training, Department of Psychology at the State University of New York, Stony Brook. Okay. For people who are not ashamed of having brains. That looks nice. Those you see a lot of used bookstores in a lot of major cities that will have a lot of these editions. If it's a nude picture, still, I cannot show it. Unless you want me demonetized or flat out, deplatformed. So instead, enjoy some Smirnoff with Johnny Carson and Beethoven. I think that Beethoven came out when Carson was still doing the Tonight Show. And one of the things that had felt, so let's go and flip that down. Wow, it's almost an hour of the show, and we've got a next one here is from 76, the year of our bicentennial. And that is Little Miss Patty McGuire, who was the Playmate of the Year for the year she was a centerfold, and then went on to marry tennis star Jimmy Connors, if I remember right. What part of I'll get deplatformed don't you understand? Something to shoot for, and one of the back pages here, and it's nothing but naked ladies. Aziz Johari. So, yeah, they've got a hot topless Indian lady back here, but her name is Aziz. So, yeah, try, looking at that one. Oh, it's so hot when, oh, wait, yeah, Parks and Recreation actor. So, although they have this BMW right here labeled Bavarian Cream. Now, actually, speaking of Hunter S. Thompson, there he is right there. And one of his calm moments, just, he's got a beard, he's got his smoking. Doesn't have any cocaine or uppers, downers, screamers, or laughers. Making out, snaring the early birds, Playboy on the scene, but we do get this nice illustration. Hello to Isabel Alive right there. I love my old Playboys. Low, 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 low. Well, and also because this was in those days, they would have those Sex and Cinema profiles that would have the 2-page spreads showing all kind of the big best nude scenes that were going on in movies at the time. Like that, they did that one for the Sex and Cinema for 95, and they opened with a 2-page spread of Batman Forever. Yeah. And so, yeah, Sex and Cinema. Oh, yeah, because remember, that was the year of Showgirls, and that was the year of a Species. Oh, yeah, it's going to be with that. And then instead, no, you get Val Kilmer and Chris O'Donnell in cod pieces with back nipples as the opening page. And get to that, oh, God, why? We have Playboy's 1977 Playmate calendar when they would do those before VHS and before the Playboy channel, and they started doing video calendars. Oh, here's one. Nice little pen and ink illustration for Fredericks of Hollywood, if you ever heard of them. Very nice. Seven super reasons to get a Playboy Club key today. Yeah, back when those were a thing. Yeah, the classic look right there. A little fun. I wonder what would happen if you actually did fill this out and like mail it out. Who would respond? I don't think I've seen the Sex and Cinema for 89. And if they would have, I'd like to think that they wouldn't have Batman in that one. Although, hey, why would you need that? Because Kim Basinger actually did a spread for the magazine years before. A nicer spread than, the wild turkey right here, trust me. Unless you'd want to keep that around in like a morgue file of like photo artwork reference for, drawing a turkey, if you had to draw a turkey. So a lot of artists would have that of just like files upon files of like photo references of stuff that they would, like rip out of magazines or whatever and keep them. Or okay, now I need to draw, like a Pinto or something from like a certain angle. They look at that photo. Unfortunately, Vanessa, I know I will, so I won't. I gotta stay on the air. If only to make sure that Vosh and Vito Gesualdi get really, really mad. And here, have a Heineken. Or have, here's a game. How many Heinekens can you count? And Weatherman's here with the information that Fredericks of Hollywood went bankrupt in 2015. Well, I don't exactly follow their business a lot, so I wouldn't know. Like Hooters, yeah, I did know about that bankruptcy and about, I told you there was the Hooters down the road. That got shut down a few years, I think even before COVID. So yeah, that was a disappointment. And I forgot to go and Google, one in the area. Vanessa, why are you putting so much pressure on me? You sound like a guy. You sound like a senior prom date pressuring the girl into sex. No. Right here. Speaking of stereos, you think with the stereotype about Hugh Hefner and Playboy and stereos that they would have this, but no. Looking around and Puerto Rican rums. Even though this photo looks like it's out in Scotland and not Puerto Rico. Yes, it's only 1 second. Yes, and it was only 1 second of Alice Eve in her bra and panties in Star Trek Into Darkness that led to a giant psychotic break all across blue hairs on the internet, who then were able to successfully get the writer to apologize because of just 1 second. And now, ever since then, every Star Trek production has had to power inject DEI pandering in that. So if you like, seeing shit like Star Trek Discovery, force in a gay kiss or force in a new gender identity every other scene, having a ginger actress on the show desperately try to keep her role on the show by gaining 30 pounds, then lying about being queer, even though she is married with multiple children. Yeah, you can thank still Hollywood over course correcting on account of feminists getting all mad because Alice Eve was in 1 second of a movie in her bra and panties. Phillips 66, the performance company. Nice little winter photography right there. Probably if I went out hunting or whatever, you'd probably go in forests like that. I don't know, maybe. I mean, I do have family here. I don't know if they like to hunt or whatever, but maybe try to connect with them more. Maybe they like to go out and hunt. So, although it's April, so I don't know if the hunting season's now, but I mean, fishing is something you can do year round. Here's one. Cobra! Oh, a full page ad for, I thought it was a stereo system. No, it's one of those trucker radio systems. Breaker 19, Breaker 19. Here's one. Weatherman says, on the line, the online store bought the remaining company in 2018 called Naked Brand Group. Okay, it's like the. All right. Yes, Weatherman's correct. If Luke showed a nipple, YouTube hammer will come down on him. Yes. Because, for me, being the crime of having the wrong politics and not backing away from them, something like that is just going to get me a bigger shit hammer than you ever would be able to see before. Oh, the irony that the Silicon Valley types all hate and fear God, but they like to give themselves to feel like they wield the hammer of God when it comes to silencing those that, will defy them. Or you can definitely 70s look when that's considered high performance, home recording. That was not exactly a very appealing Jaguar. Very bland. Very bland. On the same era of when American muscle cars were really at their best. Now, our British friends there, the Jaguars, were not the not the most. Not the most. Although there is an Irish wake up, well, fitting, it'd be booze, that. You heard of Irish coffee, right? Where it's like, 1/3 coffee, 2/3 whiskey or something. Well, we got another one that involves a lot of naked ladies here. Oh, this is the Sex and Cinema one because, yeah, here it is, Sex and Cinema for the year, and it includes a photo from the Jessica Lange King Kong in this issue. Jessica Lange King Kong, and not even the second of the film where King Kong's like pulling her tribal girl dress off and she has to like immediately cover to hide her breasts. There's also a fully nude Ursula Andress in here, so that's nice. Oh, there's also a naked David Bowie, because, yeah, well, one of the films they mentioned in here is The Man Who Fell to Earth, where you get to see David Bowie full frontal, so, that's a naked dudes in this one, so no thank you. And, well, that's interesting. Sex and Cinema 76 and the opening two-page spread includes a nude photo of Bill Cosby. Hey, Cosby liked going to the Playboy Mansion, so why not? There are 8 million stories in the naked city, and this is the last one. Article by Craig S. Carpel, how a gang of bankers and muggers decided to pull the plug on New York City. See the I Love New York badge? Except this was the 70s, so the famous I Love New York design hadn't probably been invented yet. But there it is. Also, and we've got Nick in the chat right there, so everyone say hello to Nick right on in there. There's a little fun. Everybody's saying hello there. Nice little welcome. Yeah. Justin. Okay, who you're referring to as Justin, I don't know, but or here's one, If Luke shows a nip, YT Hammer will come down on him. But if Luke talked about centaurs forcing themselves on girls, they might turn a blind eye. Yes. Like the human soy jack meme Vosh. The guy who has answered all obstacles in life with rhetorically asking, do you know who my father is? Yeah, sorry. Here, Vanessa's being so, the guy at prom pressuring his girlfriend into sex when she keeps saying no. Not in a magazine. I have a YouTuber's pal who showed nips in a magazine and he never got shut down. I'll DM you the channel name. The magazine is different from video. I mean, Jesus. But then again, remember, we're talking about Playboy here, and take a good look at the sex life of Hugh Hefner and what went on either at the mansion in Chicago or the mansion down in LA. And yeah, no means no was more of a suggestion than an idea. Yes, centaur bestiality, as Vosh proved, you can show cartoons of centaurs fucking underage girls, and that's okay because, well, he's a guy who will lick the balls of Karl Marx if he could. That's careful with the nips, YouTube guidelines, and all that. Yeah. And trying to see, well, although there is this, like I said, 76. So look at that. There's a revolution going on, and it's all these stereo systems and home media. And look at that. They got on the screen the poster for the 70s version of King Kong, the Jessica Lange one, which the Jessica Lange one that ends with the World Trade Center. Yeah, which actually I do like. I'm not saying it's perfect, but I do like that 70s King Kong. It's the even though it was a film that, if you look back at the time, it had a huge marketing budget, it had a huge amount of hype. It really was one of the early examples of the summer blockbuster with everything we expect from like a big summer movie, with the giant budget, with the massive special effects, with the huge cast and the resource and all that. Producers and directors always talking about it, all kinds of print media and TV media exposure before the film was out. except it's one that's like, out of those, from Jaws and Star Wars and Close Encounters and Superman and even Star Trek the Motion Picture, pretty much the 70s King Kong and Star Trek the Motion Picture are like the two examples of that are considered them, and also the Black Hole. Okay. The Black Hole with Anthony Perkins and Ernest Borgnine, that Disney attempt at doing Star Wars, and it wants to be Star Wars in 2001 at the same time. That's one where it's a Disney movie that you can watch on YouTube Movies for free. Okay. That's what kind of faith that that Disney has in that product. Yeah, that sort of thing. And we've got the centerfold, Miss Patty Maguire. I told you about her, Patty Maguire, who, she's the centerfold who also appears on the cover. And most of the time throughout the history of the magazine, the cover model was almost never the centerfold. They would have some other lady, some other like model that was in there, like, big name model they got to pose, or someone else, like they would see like a future centerfold, like Erica Laniak and Pamela Anderson both appeared on the cover in 1989 before their centerfolds were actually published. Like issues months before they were the official centerfolds, you saw Erica Laniak and Pam Anderson on the cover. But here, Miss Patty Maguire, the future wife of tennis legend Jimmy Connors, right in here, perfectly fine. And because this was the mid-70s when Penthouse and Hustler came into the foray and really started challenging Hefner, that was when what the ladies would show would start to become more, it wouldn't just be them like topless or whatever, like they'd be topless in like a bikini or topless with like a blanket on their crotch. No, now you can see here, Miss Maguire, well, you see all the labia. And it looks like she, they did what they had to do to get her excited, because it looks like in the way of when a woman is aroused and the labia is partially opened. Well, if we got forever, not as late as I expected, but okay. And Weatherman says that the 70s version is better than the Peter Jackson version. I would say that the Peter Jackson version does like too much, but you can tell it was like a labor of love, an example of of what happens when a director gets so much directorial clout that then he gets to do everything he's ever wanted. But everything he's ever wanted also is at the sacrifice of making a movie that like the audience will really be behind, because it's like it's too much of everything. There is such a thing as too much of everything, and it's weird that he did that coming off the success of Lord of the Rings, where it was all about how can we take this massive damn story and bring this into an actual like plot that we can really follow consistently as an actual A, B, and C story across that. Whereas as Weatherman says, too much CG in the Peter Jackson version. Yeah. Like the idea that Peter Jackson had for remaking King Kong in the 90s when he was like about to finish The Frighteners, but then the bomb of The Frighteners is what led to Universal like wanting to pull back on that. Yeah, that was a more Indiana Jones-ish. It would have been like The Mummy before The Mummy, of taking a classic 30s monster movie and making it more like a post-Indiana Jones kind of thing. It would have been, I think that would have actually been a better movie. If you go back and look at that, like Super Void Cinema is a great YouTube channel who does videos on like films that never got made or films that took like long to develop. And he did one on the failure of Peter Jackson's 1996 King Kong. And hello to Austin Woods on this special night. Well, I can see from these photos that Jimmy Connors is a very, very lucky man. Say no. And this wasn't a divorce. They've been together since then. They married and they stayed married. Very good on him. Very good on him. And then you go from those guys to that. You go from that hot lady to then these guys. How to make real money in the stock market. It certainly catches the eye, doesn't it? This little ditty right here. Weatherman says, King Kong should be a suspense movie, then turn into a monster movie in the second half. I agree with that, but way too much buildup. That's another thing also about too much and taking too long. That first hour or so of the film before you ever see Kong and all of that, stretch everything out. Yeah, it's too much. The Great Willie Nelson Commando Hoo-Ha and Texas Brain Fry, article by Larry L. King with our friend here, Willie. Oh, yes. No. Nick likes the Peter Jackson King Kong. I don't say I dislike it. I just say I like the 70s version better. And Nick also wants Vanessa to know that he saw that investigative discovery documentary on Jason David Frank, which, yeah, that's a little bad. Also says, I want more of Kong in New York. Well, that would be a thing I would prefer. One thing also I think would be like a nice thing to see would be a future Kong movie with this Monsterverse or whatever, where you see Kong and you see him like attacking or demolishing the Brooklyn Bridge as a reference to the King Kong encounter they used to have at Universal Hollywood. Where you go on the backlot tour and then you get into the big building where you're going down the bridge. There's the news helicopter warning you. It then crashes down, and then he's surrounded by fire machine guns, shaking the tram and all of that going at you like that. Yeah. Yeah, that was a great ride. Well, that was a portion of that, and then they did a whole ride of just Kong attacking you in Universal Orlando, which I never went to. And when I would see ads to Universal Studios Florida or Hollywood, and they would show that, it was always scary as hell. And that's why I remember that more than I remember the actual movie of when we had Beethoven on VHS. Was the ad for Universal Studios, and they show the different rides, the E.T. ride and all that they had in the early 90s, other rides, and also the Kongfrontation and all that. Yeah. Nick says, I wish I could have experienced the King Kong encounter at Universal. Never been there. That in Disneyland. My father would always take us to that regularly when we lived out in California. My dad would do that. And by the time I was living in Orlando, the Kongfrontation ride had long been replaced with the Mummy ride. So I've only gotten to see Kongfrontation from like people like camcorder footage in the ride, or like there are Defunct Land is a YouTube channel all about theme park rides, and they did one on the Kongfrontation. Yeah, let's see. Nick just gifted a channel membership right there. That is great. And Vanessa said, "Okay, I had to reboot my cell to send the DM. I'm trying to help you sell the classic ones." Well, hey, look at this great bit of well done color, but also pointillism. Look at this. Yes, the artistic style rendering of pointillism, which it's very nice to look at, but from my experience of actually being a working artist, pointillism is very tedious and time consuming. It's a bitch to do. I actually respect those that work professionally using pointillism. And Weatherman just gifted a channel membership. So, all right, yeah, the fan funding cherry on this got a nice little, it's been broken. And we've got imported Windsor Supreme Canadian whiskey. And remember, Windsor is literally across the river from Detroit. So, that's a thing to check out there in the future. Blended Canadian. The only real whiskey is Irish whiskey. I think that was the Warwick Davis's first lines in Leprechaun 2 when he climbs out of the big tree at the end. Blended Canadian. And we got Hondas right here when the Japanese cars were coming into America first. This is how you advertise Johnny Walker Red. A middle-aged man having looks like an argument with his dad. Bunch of dudes in tight underwear. No thanks. Here's something to get the stench off of the gross thing with all those dudes in their underwear. A nice motorcycle. Whereas Austin says, better art than in modern day comics. Correct. Definitely better art than modern day comics. And yes, Nick reminding you all to visit the store right there. Let's see. Yeah, the full toxicology report. Well, I remember hearing about, and my father and I both assuming that it had something to do with CTE with Jason David Frank because of all the head trauma from his martial arts career. Oh, hey, we got another one. Full page ad for stereos. And hello to Donnie out there. Oh, yes. Yeah, Austin Woods, King Kong indeed. That movie is how I found out about Jennifer Aniston. She was cute in that. Oh, the first Leprechaun. Oh, yeah. And that was just the year before Friends hit the theaters. So talk about how your career can go from one direction to the next. It's wild. Emma Stone going from a supporting role in The House Bunny to having 2 Oscars to her name. Look at that. And well, for our friends out there, take a look at this. Our friend, good old Ray Charles, yeah. And there's that, well, I can't show you naked women, but I can show you Marlboros. No, looking at attractive naked women is wrong, but here, smoke. Actually, this looks like a sort of comic booky advertisement right here for Jim Beam. Nice little pen and ink illustration right there. Kind of looks like something you would see out of a comic Joe Kubert would have drawn, if you look at the figures at least. All of that, like here, the Jim Beam, that looks like that more Brian Boland kind of precise, fine illustration kind of pen and ink rendering. Then these are a little more, like human looking. More, organic, like you can see that a human hand was really involved in that artwork, as opposed to Brian Boland, where as great as it is, it also looks like, oh my, like how can he do that? How can a person draw like that? And the interview, well, the cover date is November 76, so would have been the date of the election, and there's Jimmy Carter right there. Oh, well, here's a nice lady right here. Just a nice lady. And they've got you a nice little subscription you can fill out for Christmas in here. And got a nice little Japanese print work right there, woodblock print. Yeah, Boland blows my mind. Yeah, says Austin Woods. Yeah, I've got that whole big biography that Image Comics did of his whole life and career, and you look at that. That's the thing with Brian Boland. Yeah, when you look at Brian Boland, why he's been doing work almost exclusively digital for decades, the difference is that he spent years perfecting working by hand. So that's why, him doing his work digitally, he spent years actually learning how to really do it with real pen and paper, as opposed to people, like the modern Zom comic idiots, where everything is just, oh yeah, it's all waving a plastic pen over the tab and calling it art. Like, that'll kiss my ass. That was a meme on that show, The Soup, that Whitney Houston would do, but she would just shout out, "Kiss my ass!" And well, there's this isn't the only Patty Maguire issue we have. Yes, all natural in the limb plans. Now, well, speaking of what I was saying, here's Miss Maguire as the Playmate of the Year for 1977. Out up and gone to heaven. No, Elvis, a Beatles, or the Rolling Stones in 1977. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I've still got that there. When it came to all the rearranging of things with my sister coming in and helping me rearrange and restock stuff, I have a different, better case for that one now. You go from a nice lady right here, nice, happy lady, to then this guy holding up his smokes like it's a vaunted, like it's Excalibur. There's these weird ass pieces of artwork that are so surreal. You're like, what the hell is that? Oh yeah. Austin brings up the life and death of Freddie Prinze. Freddie Prinze Sr. Yeah, the first major Hispanic comedian to really make it big in the mainstream, doing stand-up. And then also there was his show Chico and the Man, which it co-starred him and Grandpa Joe from Willy Wonka running a car, I think it was like a body shop. And then in the middle of season 3, Freddie Prinze took his own life. Yeah. And they tried keeping the show going with like a child in the place of him, and it just didn't work. Or the early days of video games. This is 1977, and look at this with Pong and all this other stuff. The Atari 2600 wasn't even around yet. And I think the 2600 was manufactured by Atari from like 79 all the way up to like 1993. And Nick with a $20 super chat says, my lunch is going to end soon. Have a great time at C2E2 Luke. Well, Wait, we've got the jumbo number 2. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you right there. And we hope the rest of the night goes easy for you. Yes, there were no implants back then. I know that. There was actually an interesting HBO movie called Breast Men in the 90s, starring David Schwimmer as the doctor who helped develop breast augmentation surgery. And it's directed by the brother of Denny O'Neil, the comic writer. Yes, Denny O'Neil has a brother who became a filmmaker, and he directed the David Schwimmer vehicle Breast Men. Don't be discouraged. The man, he's so hard to understand. Yes, they will for Chico and the man. And yes, they will for Chico and the man. Oh, never done the hona. Well, naked lady's a problem, but I can show you this horse, knowing that, Vosh is probably extremely happy at the sight of this horse. Yes. Oh, who could forget breast men? Just kidding. I'm going to buy that thing. Better priced than the Switch 2? Oh, yeah, I've been hearing about that. Just when I thought I was interested in getting into gaming, well, looks like maybe one of those big, arcade one-up machines would be a better choice. This is funny. See the Little Mermaid right there with fellatio? Although, knowing your average person's IQ these days, they'd see the word fellatio and think it's a character from Shakespeare. Here's one. Please believe it or not, Jim Beam ad. That's nice. Once again, a nice bit of old-fashioned pen and ink illustration that looks very, very well done. Michelob. So, the Beach Boys advertising for Correct Power Play. So I'm guessing they all were advertising Correct Power Play being at these people, all the people music, because also Ray Charles. Winston tried to compete with the Marlboro Man. Well, people still sort of heard of the Marlboro Man, but not that one. The Many Doctor Strangeloves article by Thomas Gordon Plate. Yes, that was Plate. Look at that one there. Illustration by the printing there. It makes the lettering so vague you can't really see the name. One where their color reproduction really screwed up. Some witty cartoons, or as witty as a cartoon can get with, the titties out. And, remember what I said about how with a Playboy they were more graphic in the mid-'70s to try to compete with Penthouse? Well, here is the Playmate of the Year nude photo spread with Patty McGuire. And one photo is her on all fours with her labia on full display while looking over and smiling. And right below that is a picture of her as like a 10-year-old girl, right above a large picture of her as an adult woman, smirking over her shoulder at you with full labia out. And then people wonder why I say that the Playboy Mansion was the original Epstein Island. Here's one. Here's one of her on her bed, fully nude, with her panties down, topless, and right below that is a baby photo. Sick fucks, all of them. Anyone know a good blind cleaner? Dust off your blinds. Because if so, send them over. Ray Charles needs a bath. Okay. I love the ads from the 70s better. I love the ads from the 70s. They are better than any Marvel comic I can think of in years. Even better art in the 30s. Oh, yeah, for sure. I've seen some of that stuff from back in that day, and they definitely do work. A lot more fun, a lot better. Although understand. We've got the centerfold in here. They still don't have that profile thing of the net, with the, turn-ons, turn-offs, and all that. If you want to understand your centerfold, a little lore, they are human beings, damn it. There's this weird-ass illustration. I mean, the style stands out, so certainly. Shit is getting that Playboy jacuzzi was full of STDs. Oh yeah. I mean, I was saying this with my sister earlier about talking about about all that and mention talking about my father and mentioned him being of the Hef generation, where the weird hypocrisy of him being the kind of guy that would get violently angry at guys that would not want to wear masks during COVID, but he's of the same generation where if you even said the word condom around him, he would get violently pissed off, but also was pro-choice. So yeah, you're talking about how, oh no, it's just how I was brought up, only you had sex to have babies and all of that, and also you were raised like that, only whores would have condoms. Yeah, in the time of the generation when your generation, when AIDS was proliferating, and also on top of that, the generation of you it being the post Hefner generation, where you go around, you fuck whatever, you think you're with your dick all the time, but no, a contraception is everyone else's responsibility. Or is it more a matter of you're under that delusional generational delusion that you can go and think with your dick all you want, consequence free? We got this lady who's nice and a little cold, as you can see. She's a little cold. She's a little cold, and well, not as cold as our friend here, Little Annie Fanny, the cartoon that would appear regularly in Playboy of this era, as done by the greats known as Harvey Kurtzman and Will Elder. There have been collections of this, but they've been out of print for years, and finding those collections of all the Little Annie Fanny, those are like hundreds of bucks online. Like that channel Cartoonist Kayfabe did a profile on them a while back, I remember. And they went through the whole series. Just saw a Marlboro ad in there. Oh, there's the text series from Panasonic. Looks very nice. Yes, RJ, she is a bit nippy. Yes, now. Or then, think about, why would a man like my father, use his Catholic upbringing he hated so much? Suddenly, he's all for embracing it and talking about it as an excuse to think with his dick, but not be responsible for it and never use protection. But then, oh yeah, it's a matter of why the men like that would be pro-choice, because hey, I can fuck whoever I want, think with my dick all I want, never use a condom, and then if I get an STD, but even if I don't get an STD, if it winds up being I get someone pregnant, well then okay, well then here hey, get that abortion, bitch. And hello to Tyranitar right there. I would say a few weeks or so. And tomorrow I'm up early to get in my ride down to Chicago for C2E2. At major convention, which also remember, this magazine right here started in the city of C2E2, so that is fun. And also there's a, nice little photo right there. That's some, just some nice ladies cleaning themselves off. Oh, oh, whoa, look at this. Clark Gent's School Days, and illustrated by none other than Neil Adams. None other than comic book demagogue Neil Adams doing this full-page illustration for Playboy right here. It looked like Adams from the moment I first looked at it, but then looking at the bottom, yes, illustration by Neil Adams right there. Because he did do a lot of once like the 70s, the mid 70s, and all that, with this big boom in comics happened. Then he went and started his own advertising firm that would do ads like for would do either storyboards for commercials or would do advertising artwork like this and illustrations like this. And also they would still have a nice little Alberto Vargas piece in here. And well, even in this Alberto Vargas piece they have in here, yeah, you can see some labia in there too. She's a nice lady. She's a nice lady. There's also a lady in here that's dressed as Superman. And you've got a black lady wearing nothing but an M&M's shirt with holes for the nipples. So, hey, I like it. Ooh, well. It's the 70s, and she's got it going on in that 70s style with a nice smile. The Unabridged Bridget, Miss Bridget Rollins being our centerfold right here. When it comes to big ads, look at that Houston right there. Oh, yeah. Moment says, well, I don't feel good, so I'm going to lay down later on and have a good one. Well, nice to see you there, Weatherman. Hope you recover from what's going on with the migraines and all that. Littlesville was a nice touch in that parody, says RJ. Well, hey, no, they wouldn't hire Neil Adams if they weren't expecting the best of the best, including nice little touches like Littlesville. Here's the Splendor of Gwen. In Nashville, Gwen Wells. Okay. Gwen Nashville, not that stupid TV show, the country music movie from the 70s. The one with the mom from she was the mom in Nightmare on Elm Street, Ronnie Blakely, and Keith Carradine, not David Keith. Yeah, Keith Carradine. The Fight by Norman Mailer, Part 1. The Dead Are Dying of Thirst. Yes, The Fight, the famous, of course, the book that Norman Mailer wrote about Ali's fight with the late George Foreman. That's why Norman Mailer was featured in that When We Were Kings documentary about the Ali Foreman fight. I used to see these. What sort of man reads Playboy? And it have these flowery paragraphs at the bottom explaining, and it usually be some male model with a couple of the playmates posing in the photo with him. They did those ads all the way up until like the late 90s when eventually they gave up on the what sort of man reads Playboy. I'll get half different paint. And there's that Wild Turkey ad again. Kind of looks like it's in the fall. And we have this issue, which is, well, it's another Playmate of the Year issue, but also it's an important one because the centerfold in this one was an actually famous actress, or famous for a particular role. Miss Sandy Johnson. Yes, that's Miss June, the Playmate for June 74. And Sandy Johnson was also the first victim of Michael Myers in Halloween. Yes. She was the one, yeah, there she is brushing her hair naked when little 6-year-old Michael, stabbing and like looking away and all that. And she had, you also would have seen her in the 70s sex comedy called Gas Pump Girls, topless repeatedly. And also Gas Pump Girls is available on Amazon for free. Yes, that is correct. Judith Margaret Myers. If you saw, the first time I saw Halloween was my dad bought me the DVD of the NBC cut of the movie where they shot new scenes to make it longer, including that one where, yeah, we find out that it's Dr. Loomis talking to the other doctors, and we find out Michael's middle name is Audrey, and Judith is her middle name is Margaret. Yeah. You think you fooled them, have you, Myers? But you haven't fooled me. And well, Austin certainly enjoys what we got right here. Okay. They have a strange, freaky interstations for it. Take 2 aspirins and masturbate. An article by Linda Wolf called Take 2 Aspirins and Masturbate. Audrey, stop murdering this town. Yes. I'll drink to that. Life in Venice, California, that is. For Playmate Sandy Johnson, this funky beach town does it all. Well, yes. I bet now all of you are Googling Sandy Johnson, or at least looking her up. And if you probably would have already seen her naked in Halloween, but you get to see her naked in Gas Pump Girls, and she doesn't get stabbed to death. Here's another one of those ads with what sort of man reads Playboy. Well, I don't know what he's quite cooking up there, but I'm guessing it's something with fondue because it's the 70s, and I don't know. There's Fondue was a thing that's like a stereotype of the decade of, suddenly all the affluent white people were into fondue. Admiral Elmo Zumwalt is the interview in this one. And he looks like he looks like a Bond villain. He's going to hold the world hostage with a space laser as an admiral. He's a rogue admiral. Oh, here's a little bit of a keep it cool or keep it hot with thermo products from Playboy. I wonder how much a set of this will set you back on eBay now. If you found this, the Playboy mugs or the thermos or those coffee pots or whatever. Elmo Zumwalt nearly defeated Captain America in World War II. Well, he certainly looks the part. Yeah, he looks like a man who would be shouting "Hail Hydra." He'll rip that's not really his face. That's a mask over his real face, and it's an old nightmare. So to take your mind off that terror, here, have another Heineken. It's one nice simple Heineken in the glass. Go ahead and have that. And well, how many of you out there want to see Michael Myers' sister? A single photo of Michael Myers' sister. How many of you want to see it? You want to see it? You want to see it? How much of you out there? F's in the chat if you want to see Michael Myers' sister, because I have just the right photo for her. So now Vanessa doesn't want to see a naked lady. Okay. You want to keep well, it's the centerfold. She's got a nice smile. Now, another one who has the girl next door quality. That was what the Playboy looked for with its centerfolds. My memories have just been sold. My angel is a centerfold. Angel is a centerfold. If you ever heard that song on your local classic rock station, like I heard over and over and over again. Interesting story to now look at. I don't remember what band performed that song. Do you? Do you remember what band performed My Angel's Centerfold? See? Okay. That was your 1 second, Vanessa. That was your 1 second. Hey. So you seriously are has this been a long con, Vanessa, and you've been doing this all in order to try to get me deplatformed? Well, at least Forever finds it funny. All right. Here's one from RJ. RJ says, I suspect Carpenter was a fan of these types of magazines from Big Trouble in Little China, was a Penthouse Pet Susie Pie. P.S. It was it was the Jay Giles band. Okay, yeah. My Angel's a Centerfold. Okay. Because that was one of those songs that if you ever tune to the classic rock station when driving or whatever, you hear that at least like once a month if you consistently listen to that station. Yeah, Susie Pie from Penthouse then winds up appearing. So, and yeah, well then there's Miss June 74. Austin Wood says Carpenter was either a fan or a breast maker. Well, you're the one who said you kept on, but it was almost 2 hours of you bullying me into 1 second, and I showed you that 1 second. Okay. Do you really insist on calling down the thunder this much? Or has being around that umbrella guy and him continuing to have his platform despite all the Amber Heard psychos coming after him, is it just that now you think that the YouTubers like this are invincible? Well, Vanessa liked it, so hey, if you can track down your own copy of this, or if you don't want to spend the money, you can still Google. There's always Google image searching. Or, like I said, if you want to see better shots of her naked, then there is the film Gas Pump Girls. And hello to the return of Third Man Out. Hello, hello, hello on this Playboy retrospective night of the 70s. Yep. And also, Third Man Out. Yeah, tomorrow morning I am getting up early for my trip to C2E2. I've got the Amtrak ready to go. And also, Arthur Adams is one of the guests there. So I'm wondering, for my fans out there, which of these should I go and bring to get signed? Excalibur, Mojo Mayhem, or this miniseries Monkey Man and O'Brien? Thinking maybe the Excalibur one-shot might be better to get signed. Or maybe just bring them both and see what happens. Especially because I still can't find where I left those Alex Saviuk bits that I had of those X-Men Pizza Hut comics he did. Look, here is a very nice one here. Austin says, that's tough. Do what you think is right, but Austin would go with Excalibur. Oh, yes, well. Which I got because of the Arthur Adams artwork, not because of Excalibur. It was a matter of, I at first really was discovering his work and, trying to scrape around to find it. And here was actual, comic, not just some cover art. And here we have the vaunted 20th anniversary issue where they kept it simple with the cover. Very, very nice. And also this one being one of the last issues that they did. This being of the 25th anniversary Playmate, Miss Candy Loving. Yes, that was her actual name, Miss Candy Loving. That was a... Yep. A little bit right there. I remember Adam Carolla doing something, I think it was like the Love Line, where he talked about his favorite Playmate was the lady you see right here in those, those booty shorts right there. Candy Loving showing off. And she also had some great natural breasts, too. But, of course, I already gave the 1 second that I got bullied into like that. Let me see what the... oh, here she is. Oh, I think this is the Playmate of the Year. Oh, yeah. This is the Playmate of the Year spread. When it comes to large natural breasts, Candy Lovin was definitely in a class by herself back in the 70s. We can find where there's one of her with an open robe, and you can see her bush and breasts under a suit of armor. And actually, the opening 2-page spread is of her clothed, so we can show this out of her Playmate of the Year spread. Very nice. She was definitely the most 70s one that comes to mind when it comes to Candy Loving. Relevant right there. I could show a little bit of this one here. Little Miss Loving fully dressed in that table right there. And then the rest, well, they've got her now working the pole, another of her working the bowling alley, and you got her in a sheer outfit in front of one of those Playboy pinball machines. And there's her fully nude swimming deep underwater, one of those like pools that has like a fish tank thing to it. And well, welcome, milady, to the Peter Venkman fan site on this little night right here that we're doing this. Very, very fun. I don't know if it's also interesting that, yes, my regular female viewers in here are the ones that were seeing this and also insisting on seeing more of this. Corolla says, Austin says that Corolla married a woman who looks just like her. Then they got divorced. Well, and that happens. I know he had, I think like he had twins with them too. But now he's got that, podcast he does that does well. And he also has his own like racing team and his own brand of wine. So yeah, he's okay. Well, there's a couple of here of her in a nice little bath, all naked, including one where there she is with her heaving, beautiful natural breast out, giving really, really good bedroom eyes to the camera. And she's got a bar of soap around her neck. If you ever saw those, the bar of soap on the rope. She's got soap in a rope. She's got like a necklace with a bit of the bush out. And another one of looks like it's her, and the like shower is like raining down from her. There's another couple of her in some sheer outfits where you don't really get to see her nude, but you still get to see her heaving breast bursting around the hem of her dress. More of Vanessa doing her best Harvey Weinstein. This is her equivalent of that recorded audio of Weinstein and doing that with the lady there in the room and all that. Okay, that was emojis there. Am I going to wake up and find Vanessa diddling herself over my bed like what Angie Everhart accused Harvey of at the Cannes Film Festival that one year? Oh, and in this one, the centerfold is the tragic story of Miss Dorothy Stratton. Yes, Miss August 79, Miss Dorothy Stratton, the one who was sadly gunned down by her husband, and her story was portrayed in both the TV movie Death of a Centerfold by Jamie Lee Curtis and also by Mariel Hemingway in the film Star 80. Well, if I can show the top half of this picture. I just sort of do that right there. Doesn't look really like Jamie Lee Curtis or Mariel Hemingway, but I mean, saw what they were going for with her. Then again, there's centerfolds and those that are playing, and that's why most centerfolds don't wind up having like a respectable acting career. Or as Austin says, yeah, The View and Luke wakes up. RJ says both impressive performances, but Hemingway looked more like her. I would agree to that. And yes, also, as great as Eric Roberts was, that's another one where neither Eric Roberts nor the guy in that TV movie that Jamie Lee Curtis really looked like Paul Snider. The real Paul Snider strangely looked like Bruno Kirby. That guy, he was the limo driver in Spinal Tap, the one who keeps talking about Sinatra, and in City Slickers, he was the fat friend of Billy Crystal in City Slickers. Peter Venkman Fansite says, I saw her on a Buck Rogers rerun. Oh, yeah. She was one where it looked like she actually did have a promising acting career ahead of her, because going from centerfold to then being Playmate of the Year, she was getting talk show appearances and started getting roles in movies. Like, that was the whole thing where she was leaving her crazy abusive husband and was having an affair with Peter Bogdanovich, and he put her in his film They All Laughed. And she also had the lead role in the space movie Galaxina, and also had TV appearances like as Miss Galaxy on the Buck Rogers show from the 80s. I remember there was one vendor at Motor City Comic-Con I was talking to, and it was like looking at some things, and I mentioned like magazines or whatever, and mentioned ladies like Dorothy Stratton, like, back from this looks like a photo of her from when she was on Buck Rogers. And they were like, oh, you're too young to remember Dorothy Stratton. So it's funny, they've got her, the front photo of her where you see the one breast popping out is a jacket. The jacket she's wearing says Boy Scouts of America, and she's Canadian. That's the very Canadian born and raised Dorothy Stratton. And you get into gross as hairy dudes all over the place. Now, to the women out there, I'm pretty sure you're all happy that you are not of adult age going around men and trying to get into men in the 70s, where they all had to look like a walking shag carpet. No wonder Star Wars was so big, because, I mean, look at Chewbacca and look at the men that were considered sex symbols back then. He fit right in. And I bet that I still maintain that walking carpet line from Carrie Fisher was ad-lib, because, well, she was going to Hollywood parties. She was used to seeing dudes that looked like that. Like, Google Burt Reynolds from that time or Elliot Gould from that time. I mean, at least Burt Reynolds, even if he was all hairy, was still like that good-looking, charming Southern boy man. Well, no, Elliot Gould, on the other hand, what the hell? How many drugs were people on the 70s to consider Elliot Gould like a good-looking leading man? What the fuck is wrong with you people? That's a joke from John Oliver I still agree with about, there are a lot of things we did wrong in the 70s, like considering Elliot Gould a sex symbol. Of course, you don't know who he is. You remember him as David Schwimmer's dad on Friends. If you're, that's probably the most likely reference of you out there knowing who he is. Or Austin, Austin being very much more like Ron Swanson. I like strong, self-assured women at the top of their game. You're Cheryl Swoops. And also, well, Vanessa's bringing up the link to the art store where you can go and you can drop a couple dimes on these boys right here. Yeah, the long goodbye, that Philip Marlowe parody that was done with him. With the whole idea was trying to do like a deconstruction of that Philip Marlowe hard drinking, hard smoking Private Eye from the era of like the works of Dashiell Hammett here or Raymond Chandler. Yeah, and well, in the 70s, it was all about spoofing that or deconstructing that. Oh, yeah, Gould also had that one scene in American History X. Well, it says, well, the other bad thing was that 70s women weren't shaved that much yet. Well, no. If the legs and armpits are shaved, I'm more insistent on that than, down there, a woman can have some hair. I mean, like here, now there's another full page spread. This is considered one of the nude spreads in this issue, but it's actually a bunch of stills from a movie called Stay As You Are, starring Nastasia Kinski. You remember her from Cat People in the 80s? Or that one Polanski movie, Tess, because she was one of Polanski's girlfriends after he fled America when he looted up that girl. Here she is with that guy who was, I don't remember the actor's name, but he starred in 8½. And this is him, like this was after that. He was like now, this is him as a middle-aged man having an affair with this gorgeous young lady, including multiple scenes of her buck-ass naked in a hotel room with him. And also, yeah, Nastasia there. You know who her father was? You see this gorgeous lady right here? Look at that. Her father, Klaus Kinski, the creepy German fuck from the 70s version of Nosferatu. Or Aguirre, The Wrath of God, or Fitzcarraldo, which you probably would have heard of that one from the Critical Drinkers production Hell video on Fitzcarraldo. Yeah, that creepy fuck gave birth to this gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous lady. Yes. Yeah. Just say Marcellano Marcellani. No, Marcellani. Yes. Marcello Marcellani. Okay, yes, from 8½, and the film was called Stay As You Are. Dazzling Nastasia Kinski's heart may belong to Daddy in this sexy new Italian movie. Oh, yeah, that's another thing. The Marcello right there may or may not be her, long lost father, and they're having an affair. Yeah. Yeah, Italian movies are fucked up. I mean, if you know the work of Dario Argento, you already know that they're totally fucked up, but that's like, okay, horror movies, that's, a lot of gory, violent stuff. I'm expecting that. But that movie that's trying to romanticize and glamorize, a dude banging his long-lost daughter. Oh, God, I'm going to throw up. Where's that? Oh, Austin says Aguirre and Fitzcarraldo role. I have seen Fitzcarraldo and the 70s version of Nosferatu. There's actually 2 dubs of it. You can watch the whole thing was in English and in German, and the actors everything they performed everything. So there's the English version and the German version, and it's not like a dub like what they did with like Godzilla movies. No, it's the same actors and they're speaking their lines in English, and there's the other version where they're doing it in or I know. How risque. That's a whoops old boy prequel. Well, maybe if it turns out that really is the guy's daughter at the end of the film, he will do what the main guy in Old Boy did and cut out the tongue. I laugh when in Me Too, everyone in H-Wood pretended to be shocked Polanski is a pervert. Yeah. And then you actually wound up getting people actually defending him, like Angelica Houston, who was there in the home of Jack Nicholson. Jack Nicholson was out, and there was Polanski with the girl and Angelica Houston. Yeah. Yeah, that's a thing that happened. Drink on that one. Or you can buy a vintage Playboy. Yes. Buy a vintage Playboy like this one right here. Yeah, apparently there was a Nancy Drew TV show in the 70s, and well, after the show was canceled, The star went and did this. Don't you like that one there? Also, Carl Sagan on Paranormal Junk. I think this is when the Cosmos show was first starting to happen. But that's saying I'm not Weinstein for fuck's sake. Okay. On the one hand, he did bad things to women. On the other hand, he made The Ninth Gate. So why do we like this guy again? I remember Chris Rock saying something about that of when Polanski eventually got busted in like the 2010s or something, and Chris Rock was like a guest on the Tonight Show, and he was like, people still defending Roman Polanski because he made good movies? He made good movies 30 years ago. Yes. Or no. This nice ginger Nancy Drew, or as Austin calls her, the original Scully. Well, if you're referring to the character in general, well, I'm not familiar with the character to go into specifics, but I know the general outline is to know there are the Hardy Boys, and you had Nancy Drew for the girl market. So, I mean, okay. I mean, the characters kept some sort of pop culture relevancy somehow all these decades later. Give or take a terrible attempt at doing like a modernized version of the character as a CW series. I saw that advertised. It looked, oh God, no. It looked worse than Riverdale. Got some ladies in this one. If you thought all the Playboy Club had to offer was the good life, you'd be half right. The other half you can take right to the bank. That's why the Playboy Club's in a bank vault. And there's the ad there, the lady. Oh, yes. And I was watching that Oscars when it aired of Roman Polanski winning Best Director and everybody shooting up uniformly to applaud him. And just a few years before at the Oscars, Elia Kazan, who directed On the Waterfront, got an honorary Oscar. And you can see the amount of people who were standing to applaud him and others who were refusing, like conniving little bitches, because Elia Kazan famously testified to the House Un-American Activities Committee and identified communist infiltrators in Hollywood, and publicly stated as that film was being made, and also retroactively about how making that film was a statement to all of his critics and all those who called him a stool pigeon and a rat to go fuck themselves. Yeah. And you watch that clip of Elia Kazan accepting his honorary Oscar, and you see Tarantino and Steven Spielberg and Nick Nolte and Jim Carrey and Ed Harris refusing to rise. And strangely, the first person you see to applaud Kazan is Warren Beatty. Warren Beatty, the man who spent a decade plus of his life to write, produce, direct, and star in a film about the life of John Reed, the author of 10 Days That Shook the World, the man so devoted to the communist ideal that he's the one American to have been buried in the Kremlin. And he's the one that was, oh yeah, I don't care if he identified commies. I'm praising him. Or either maybe it's a matter of the movie was done as a way of, showing this guy and showing everything he lived for, and then how his, ideals that people just wound up letting him die. Or should I call this toll-free number? Just call anytime? Should I call? I mean, she looks nice. RJ, well, ever since the late 90s, you're not the first person to hear the name Hardy Boys and think more of wrestling than to think of the Boy Detectives. And Vanessa says yes to me calling up that number. That's been something I've thought of doing as like a weird crank call thing to do, is looking at these toll-free numbers and like calling them to see if they're still in service. There's the cartoons. And a couple of pages before that. Neil Simon's The Cheap Detective. Full page ad. Back when movie posters were still artwork most of the time. Including Louise Fletcher and Madeline Kahn. Sid Caesar. Oh, and Margaret. Nicole Williamson from Excalibur and Exorcist 3, and of course Spawn, the Spawn movie. And more cartoons right there. Actually, yes, I do remember Crank Yankers vividly. I had never missed an episode of that. Yay! I want to go to Hawaii! Yay! And there was a Tracy Morgan's character. He would do Spoony Love. Oh yeah, I'm Spoony Love. I know I sound like Randy Newman's black, but I just because I'm Tracy. What you doing? I'm Tracy Morgan. What are you? Oh, Saint Jane and the Hollywood Dragon. Well, the illustration looks nice. It is of a actual real life commie waste of life, Jane Fonda. So nice illustration of a terrible person. Here's a nice profile on Leroy Neiman. Little Elvis pieces he did right here. You would have seen Leroy Neiman's work at the end of Rocky III. That final freeze frame, yeah, that's a Leroy Neiman painting. When Sylvester Stallone did a social media post responding to the death of Carl Weathers, he intentionally posed like doing a video in front of the Neiman original of that final shot of Rocky III as a little tribute. Forever says that the Jerky Boys are great too. I heard of the Jerky Boys retroactively, but never really listened to any of them. And also, here's the same artist doing some nice pencil sketches right there. Oh, and well, actually, there's the photo of the man himself down there with the. Okay. He also appeared in a couple of the Rocky sequels on camera as like a ring announcer, like the fight scene with Hulk Hogan. Yeah, the guy with the big mustache there. That's Leroy Neiman, who for some reason got a speaking role. Oh, there's a larger photo of the man himself. And at the UCLA campus in Westwood, you go there through they have a big like trophy room, and they have the giant original portrait of the famous UCLA basketball coach John Wooden that Neiman did. And also, actually, besides all that famous like sports artwork he did, these naked lady pieces you would see for decades in Playboy, those party joke illustrations were also done by Neiman. That was also Neiman work regularly done in the pages of this gentleman here. Here's one. The World of Leroy Neiman. It says here at the bottom, Playboy provided the launching pad. Neiman's special genius did the rest. Let's look at these. He found his niche doing artwork like Playboy, but then beyond that, also somehow finding his calling outside of that, going into sports illustration with painting and things like that. And these little cartoon, little animation opening credits for right there. Looks like I think Monday Night Football or something. And these boys back here. These gentlemen, it looks like oh wait, it's Ali Frazier. Oh yeah, the first Ali Frazier fight. These little pastel pieces of them round by round. Yeah, they did go the full 15 rounds. So if you actually fold it all the way out the other way, one side you get 2 of Elvis, the other one you get a round by round bit of Ali and Frazier. Or Muhammad Ali and John Boyega, because John Boyega be ugly like Joe Frazier. And that's especially bad considering Joe Frazier looked like he was having an allergic reaction. He needs a go look at Joe Frazier, and he looked like a man who was in bad need of Benadryl and Pepto-Bismol. And if John Boyega be uglier than him, then that is sad. Oh, here's one. This one does have the Playmate data sheet. So, okay, our friend right here, Karen Elaine Morton, bust 32, waist 22, hips 32. Height is 5'6", weight 95. Her sign is a Libra. Okay. Birthday at October 3rd, 58. Birthplace Palmdale, California. Goals to always be happy. That's it. She has the one goal in life. So, hey, a lot of people don't achieve any goals in life. So if you have one goal in life and you actually achieve it, that's better than a lot of other people out there. Turn-ons are horse races, movies, red Ferraris, humor, and a gentle touch. Well, a lady in the centerfold, more likely, she's probably more in touch with the guys who've got the red Ferraris and the guys who can go out to horse races and drop a massive dime on them. Ideal evening is a quiet evening with a close friend. Okay. Favorite performers: Woody Allen, Clint Eastwood, Steve Martin, Frank Sinatra, Mikhail Baryshnikov, and Elvis. Well, I don't think. Elvis had already been dead by this point. This is 78, and yeah, he died in 77. Let's see. Favorite musicians are Rod Stewart, Oscar Peterson, The Stray Cats, Johnny Cougar, and Streetheart, Joni Mitchell, and Jackson Browne. Jackson Browne, the song when Jennifer Jason Leigh is doing it in Fast Times. Anytime she's having sex, no, probably somebody's baby tonight. That one. Tonight. That guy, yeah. Okay, she enjoys her foods are hot curry dishes. Okay, well, no, it helps with the sinuses. But then again, out there in California, in that desert climate, it's much better for the sinuses than any place with humidity. Trust me. If I spent, I've got the next week or rest of the week in Chicago. If I spent then after that, the next 5 days in Yuma, Arizona, or out in Palmdale, California, or San Dimas or whatever, the sinuses all of that would be completely blasting out of me because of it all being dried out by the desert. Let's see. Well, besides the curry dishes, strawberries and cream, champagne on ice, no, rich girl taste, anchovies and beer, and chocolate cheesecake. The anchovies and beer sounds like, what she'd be into if she doesn't mind bagging a rich guy. Well, I'm trying to find one of this nice lady where you won't see, actually, wait, I've got one right here. Like this. This will work. Of our little lady right here from Palmdale. Or as the Peter Venkman fan site says, chocolate. Oh, wait. Chocolate cheesecake, classy. Well, maybe she was an early investor in the Cheesecake Factory, and that's part of why they always expanded so well. And I don't think they went under anything like that. I remember they had a huge one at that big promenade they have at Caesar's Palace in Vegas, of course. The one where Elizabeth Berkley gets the dress. I get with that not yes, the 70s hair for the ladies, but not like Farrah Fawcett. But they all don't have to look like the same style that Farrah Fawcett did. And this was 78, so that particular hairstyle would have been well established by then. And well, but Peter Venkman fan site fulfilling a stereotype about women and chocolate. Either that or the Peter Venkman fan site is secretly Counselor Troy. If you remember that detail about her from The Next Generation. That's some blowing up your boat with these rigs. It's not like riding on air. It is riding on air. Illustrations by Martin Hoffman. Nice. It could have. Sort of looks like the painted artwork you would see in those fancy magazine comics, almost something out of Heavy Metal magazine. Or maybe even when Penthouse did comics in the mid-90s. And they got Adam Hughes and Kevin Nowland to work on them. Here's one. Article by Dr. William Masders, the sex guy. Or when they did that TV show about him with Michael Sheen, my father would call it the Master Sex Show. Like he was a drunk German guy in broken English. Well, here's one of our Nancy Drew right there in her photo spread. She seems nice. Although, once again, I have not spoken to the lady, so I do not know. Oh, actually, here's the opening. Nancy Drew grows up, they say. Got the pitcher of milk down there, dressed like a man suit. Lenny Bruce was always good for an article. Well, I'll take your word on that. I did see footage of when Playboy After Dark was on TV and Lenny Bruce appeared on there. You know, speaking of people affiliated with Playboy like that, Lenny Bruce and the film about him with Dustin Hoffman from the same director who wound up doing Star 80, and both of them had those like cutaways to one-on-one interviews with the actors playing the characters like it was a like a fake documentary, which is the format that then the movie Private Parts ripped off. Was Bob Fosse perfected that with Lenny, with the act cutting away to one-on-one interviews with the actors playing their characters in between the dramatization of Lenny Bruce's life, and then in the mid 80s he did the same thing. If you rewatch Star 80, Astral Projection and the Horse That Could Count, article by Carl Sagan, very nice. With that's obviously trying to be a riff on the mothership from Close Encounters. And the way that they were to do that mothership at the end of the movie with 70s technology, that's and the fact that there was no CGI to do it with back then means, okay, that's all the more interesting and fascinating and impressive, as opposed to, the CGI is taking away the magic out of movie magic. And well, I still agree with that on that about Star 80 being great. RJ would like you all to know that cheesecake and key lime pie are items I enjoy greatly. Well, the key lime pie is great down in Florida, but also be careful, because if you're easily congested like me and you're dealing with the humidity with the key lime pie, then yes, it's a matter of, it's like days upon days I am blowing my nose and going through multiple boxes of them. Nice little Kleenex boxes. Yeah, Isabel is still stuck on that Jackson Browne song I was mentioning earlier. Vanessa brings up sad story of the end of Dorothy Stratton's life. Oh yeah, I mean, there's that. Well, there was those movies I mentioned. I mean, fitting that one of them would star Jamie Lee Curtis when she was still doing Terror Train and Prom Night. Here's one: Where to Dine in Detroit. That was relevant right here to where I am, and see if any of these places are still open. Or any names I recognize. The Bloomfield Company, that's 15-mile West Bloomfield. Well, I've only ever been to Bloomfield Hills once. That's one of the things I got to do. When I get back in the city, I'll make a note of it, of going out to Bloomfield Hills for the first time in 9 years. We went out to Bloomfield Hills one time. I'm hopping on the bike and getting up there. John Laffrey's Old Mill, top of the Punch Hotel Pontchartrain. I don't think that hotel's open anymore. Moy's Japanese Steakhouse. I don't know. Let's see. No, I think the Village Cafe is the only one of these that's still open, actually. And even then, I'll have to go and double and triple check these. Oh, of course. Now, for the women out there, this is for all you ladies out there. I know there are certain men, certain actors that when a woman of any generation looks at them, they immediately drool at the sight of them the way men drool at the sight of Sydney Sweeney. So for the women out there, get ready to be sopping, because Roy Schneider, Jaws era Roy Schneider, the only straight man that wasn't a tennis player who could pull off booty shorts in the 70s. If you remember him in Jaws or in 2010, yes. Ladies, if you want to go and, have fun with one of the 14 vibrators you own, okay, we'll give you a break. I'll cut you a break tonight. And hey, see, I know the female psyche very, very well, and the Peter Venkman fan side agrees about how she just cannot control herself around Roy Schneider. If anything, it's a good thing that he's been dead for more than a decade. His last movie was being Thomas Jane's dad in the 2004 Punisher, because if he was still around at his age, it would just be drained completely from at his age, not being able to run away from all the groupies that'd be trying to mount him. It's like what I say about how women are violently horny for men from Saskatchewan. That's why women can't control themselves around Dan Aykroyd, or when they were alive, Gordie Howe and Rowdy Roddy Piper. All Saskatchewan born and raised, and all of them just could have any woman they wanted. I don't know why, they just do. It's especially hard if you show them those pictures of Gordie Howe when he got the horrible like cracks in his own face and needed to wear a proto Jason Voorhees mask, not to play on the ice, but just as part of the healing process of like the bones shattered in like his nose and all that. And Vanessa agreed, yes, he was good in Jaws. And we've got Donnie in the chat as well. So then, no, you know that, you know it. Even when he gets easily startled by like a bitch at the sight of when you first see the shark, and that famous one, and the big continuity error that even my father would point out when we'd watch the movie of, he jumps, he's got the cigarette in his mouth, he sees the shark, and then he starts walking back away, and we see now his cigarette is all lit right before he says you're going to need a bigger boat. And then, well, this one's a little strange. Got happy naked lady, but then you got all these cartoon kids straight out of like a PBS cartoon that you used to see as a little child. Yeah. But hey, there's a pro football forecast in here and a pictorial fantasy of the wedding night. Why not do a wedding theme cover instead of this thing with the children looking at this lady? And clearly it's not a nude beach, so she's just some kind of like Mary Kay Letourneau thing. Or that video that Shuan had did about the whole hypocrisy over reporting on female, sex abusers of like of boys in schools versus those of men that abuse the girls in school. I don't know. There's the nice bride-to-be and that wedding pictorial. The first one, I can show you the beginning. And yes, Vanessa wants to ask all of you who wants to buy a vintage Playboy, because, well, hey, you can make a nice donation in this. Although Forever says, as someone that has swam with sharks, I can't blame him. Well, I've just seen Discovery Channel specials on them and seen toys of sharks in like Petco and at different stores over the years, and those enough are like, to the point where if as a child taking a bath, if you put a shark toy in there with me, I'd be running out screaming. There would be me, my wet naked child self running around the house terrified of a toy. Well, speaking of that, 2 pages dedicated to some nice creative cartooning, all in color. But remember, if you look into the early career aspirations of Hugh Hefner, seeing his cartooning desires makes a bit more sense. And then you see why he was an open checkbook to guys like Harvey Kurtzman or the creator of Plastic Man, Jack Cole, who was one of the earliest regular cartoonists working for Playboy right from the very beginning. If any of you even know who Plastic Man is. This lady looks nice. I don't think this Playboy, this is before the Playmate data sheets. Jean Manson is the centerfold. Well, it's one of those where I can show this photo there. Nice. Remember the girl next door look, and she certainly fits it. Looks nice. Well, Vanessa wants to say we know Plastic Man. Yes, it is, except it's a bitch to try and find the actual copies of that stuff. The only time I think that the Plastic Man stuff from the original Jack Cole Plastic Man, because he was another one of those characters that was a golden or silver age comic book superhero that wasn't a DC creation, but DC bought the rights later on. Like all those heroes that Steve Ditko created for Charlton in the 60s, like the Ted Kord Blue Beetle and the Question and all that. Or that Captain Atom, all those that now have become DC characters since then. Plastic Man was like that, and the only time they've reprinted them is in those DC archive editions from like the early 2000s and late 90s that were like $50 cover price. Could probably be part of why Japan loves those bunny outfits and referencing Hefner in anime. Oh yeah, definitely. That whole, another thing about Japanese entertainment being habitually unoriginal is the anime love of the Playboy Club bunny look. How that very first video, that very first anime that Hideaki Anno at Studio Gainax ever made, is the one where, yeah, it's the Playboy Club bunny with the lightsaber and she's fighting all that because of it has its own name. It's like a subculture thing in Japan but basically it's the Playboy Club bunny outfit. And that's because of how big Playboy became in Japan and how that's outlasted the presence of Playboy clubs in the land of the rising sun. Well, I think I could show you this. It's a nice little artwork. It Came to Pass, fiction by Chris Dickey. The Coward's Almanac by humor by Marvin Kitman. Nice use of negative space there. Kind of looks like Magritte. Magritte's that French painter, I believe he was. The French painter, you would have seen that if you remember that movie Toys, the sort of visual look of the movie is based on Magritte's artwork, like the Thomas Crown Affair with Pierce Brosnan, the painting where it's the man in the three-piece suit with the derby hat and the apple over his face. Yeah, and there's Brosnan and like 6 other guys all dressed like that painting the exact same way. Well, yeah, that's Magritte's work. And also, strangely, the work of Magritte also inspired part of The Exorcist, the famous shot of Max von Sydow first showing up at the house that then became the movie's poster. That was the movie's teaser trailer. That now is the image on the famous plaque that's at the top of the M Street stairs in Georgetown when they made it a local landmark, was inspired by a Magritte painting, actually. If you watch that Fear of God Making the Exorcist documentary from England in the late 90s that Mark Kermode made, that I remember being on the DVD of The Exorcist that my brother Corey bought me. The one that has William Friedkin introducing the film. And I saw somebody uploaded that William Friedkin introduction of the film from the DVD, and he says, notice it's weird that William Friedkin kind of talks like Trump. And I don't mean like quoting, I mean like William Friedkin, the director, his voice sounds like he's doing a Trump impression. It's weird. Well, I know both were born and raised in New York, so maybe it's just that generation of that New York patois of always speaking louder than you need to. Growing up in New York in that post-war America, I'm guessing just no inside voice. People in those slums, in those tenements, like the tenements that Will Eisner did all of his comics from the 70s onwards, like A Contract with God. You know, all the other Dropsy Avenue stories where nobody could afford a phone, so if they would talk, they'd just open up their window and stick their head out and yell at the window of who they want to talk to from the building that's literally like an inch away from them. You see that in neighborhoods like Hamtramck, where houses are literally like an inch apart from each other, and you can just open the window and hear what the people are talking about or see what they're doing in the next house. Like that also with those tenements in those areas of New York City from that time. Just open up the window, the clothespin lines that go from the one window of one building to the next and all that, straight out of a post-70s Will Eisner comic. So everybody's used to just yelling like this. Here's one. Venus or the Virgin, fiction by Sean O'Fowlane. The page that's folded over, but that's enough of that one. And well, with all of those, with seeing those, I hope it was off to entertainment you all went. Let's go and compile these babies back up in here. Make us have a good time and a fun time with these, a little bit of these boys right there. And wait, there's a few more on the ground that we gotta pick up. Just 3 more. Oh, yeah. With Mrs. Jimmy Connors. Then again, as you see, Jimmy Connors, an extremely lucky man. Besides being one of the all-time greats in pro tennis, also he got to marry her. So you can either admire him or hate him now as much as you want. And of course, the one who started the stream here, Miss Benton, with the bunny ears down there. Nice smile. She's gorgeous, enjoys to get naked for the camera, but also has the nice smile, the sunny disposition. She's the nice girl who also wants to get naked and get wild. Although that does mean she's the kind of girl that's not going to immediately jump your bones. She's the kind where, it's the girl like her that's where the naturally occurring cultural thing of, you wait till the 3rd date. Yeah. Like, no. Oh, and these 3 dates, don't be a hoe, dear. Correct. There was the one movie I saw where those ladies with this guy's like, oh no, wait, I have a rule. I don't have sex with a man until we've at least had 3 meals together. Which way, is that? I mean, basically, it's the same principle. We don't know where it came from. It's just there. It's like saying a penny saved is a penny earned. We don't know. It's just out there in the world. Whereas Forever says, damn, she's cute. Well, Forever, if you don't know already, this lady here, Barbie Benton, was so damn cute. She wound up being the co-host on Hugh Hefner's Playboy After Dark TV show, and also is the reason why he went and bought the famous Playboy mansion out in LA in Holmby Hills. Because before then, he had been working and was headquartered out of Chicago and had his own Playboy mansion there in Chicago. That's become like a local landmark in the area. And yeah, right here, yeah, she's the reason why, because she was like a veterinarian student out in UCLA that then wound up going out into modeling jobs or whatever and got on Playboy After Dark. And, Hefner, like, she was so hot that Hefner wound up getting her an actual like speaking role, co-host role on the show, and leveraged that towards being one of the honeys on the show Hee Haw, and got to release multiple albums and also acting. There's the Canon Films slasher movie called X-Ray that she's in as the female lead, and also the original Deathstalker movie where she plays a princess. If you're a B movie fan, you probably would have already known about her because she does get brought up in the Canon Films documentary Electric Boogaloo, where they talk about the movie X-Ray and about how, yeah, it was just one of those slasher types. So they got Barbie Benton, and there's no way you could have Barbie Benton in a movie without showing her body, which, well, you do. Even though it's her going to the doctor, so it's not. It's far too. It's accurately clinical, so it's not exactly as hot as what you see in these nice home pages right here. And the other appearances she made, I also have those all. Never centerfold, but one of the most iconic Playboy models ever. And then on the back, you've got a Dewar profile from that one guy from Law and Order, the old gray guy from Law and Order, but this was in the 70s, so he's not old and gray here. If you ever just would either see Law and Order just re-airing all the time, or if there's literally nothing else on, so you would just sit and watch that Law and Order anyway, like sometimes I would do. RJ says, I know a person with a name like Barbie, but slightly different. I never acknowledged it to her, though. Well, remember, also her legal name is Klein, but it was Hefner who insisted on her getting Benton as a stage name. So I'm guessing that, Hefner would have been the Free Palestine type. You'd probably know she'd have to go off and like hide in some weird little room in the Playboy mansion, trying to do, to go and honor one of the Jewish high holidays. Something to do with the Passover, there. Trying to do it in secret, like with and Diary of Anne Frank almost. Diary of Anne Frank, the Playboy Mansion edition. See, RJ says, Deathstalker also had in it the late Richard Brooker. While not the first Jason Voorhees, his was the first to wear the iconic goalie mask. Oh, that's something that I see about the movie that people don't really bring up as much. They'll when it comes to Deathstalker, more people just bring up, the Roger Corman cheap Conan knockoff, or they'll bring up all the titties, or they'll bring up, Barbie Benton, or they'll bring up, Deathstalker. Yeah, I'll say this, it's trying to be a cash-in on Conan the Barbarian, but they are accurate to how the heroes in those Robert E. Howard kind of stories, they would not be male feminists. They'd be going and taking their women too. So yeah, there is that. A little bit of fun right there. Dan had no idea. Yes, indeed. And well, with that right there, this is the last call. The last call for super chats, the last call for channel memberships, or the last call for donations into my store. If you feel like wanting to get any of these and go into my store and buy any one of these up for your entertainment, FYE. If you are the type, if you enjoyed any one of these that we've shown off tonight, this one or this one, or this one, or this one right here, or our Nancy Drew right here, our 70s Nancy Drew. Maybe we can go check the streaming services to see if the 70s Nancy Drew series is there. or Miss Candy loving her of the most beautiful natural D cups that the magazine had in the 70s. No wonder she was the 25th anniversary Playmate, the silver Playmate. Silver anniversary, yes. And the one that it got to see the nipple in right there. The one with Michael Myers' sister as the centerfold. And then we've got here, the last one there, where it's a bit nippy. Oh, this coffee, it's a bit nippy, yes. It's a bit nutty. Oh, this coffee smells like shit. It is shit, Austin. Oh, good, then it's just not me. It's a bit nutty. With the Austin Power Stool sample. Get your vintage Playboy here. There's the link right there that Vanessa keeps on dropping if you're feeling like that. Oh, I'm just Stewie. No, it's just me. Just being myself. Oh, what that? Oh, it's just my package. It's just my package. God delivered it. I signed for it. The world keeps on spinning. Oh, yes. Oh, it's just it's my package. It's my awesome package. Ledan. Oh, the Strokes. Sorry. And we have our friend right here, Deadpool, still with us. Very nice in the dynamic poses right there. And, well, at least Vanessa was enjoying it. Did anyone else out there enjoy all those ladies? Or, of course, how because of this, we had to be very, very careful. And just Vanessa wore me down like that with showing the nipple right there. From the heaven above right there. Oh, yeah, there we go. Just a bit of fun. And yes, Sydney Sweeney there, ever present as always for the fun time. Yes. When we are, Peter. No, when does James Woods get to be in the fun time, Peter? Yes, when do I get to be? Ooh, piece of candy. 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 Maybe we should have just do this, immediately the next time if this ever happens again. Okay. Well, we got a little, and there's a little bit of a, we got some, that's also for Eva, it's not that complicated to make it available for you to be able to accept gifts when it comes to gifting memberships. Like this, where I think actually I'll just, when it comes to Arthur Adams stuff, maybe just bring all these, the full Monkey Man and O'Brien series and Excalibur. Just depends on whether or not he charges for signing or also how much. That's the thing is, somebody signs something, how much they charge or what they charge or whatever. Then that is the conundrum to get in there. Oh, yes. And is it magic? Well, I don't know. Now where this is for trying to explain to Forever how to get the available to accept channel gifts like that. Well, what like with trying to teach an 80-year-old woman how to use an iPad. It makes him sound like that old Italian lady on Family Guy who doesn't want to learn how to use the iPad. I don't want it. What? I don't want it. I don't want it. Oh, I bet you'd like it if Joey did it. Don't you talk him up. Joey was a good boy. He was dirty, Ma. Oh, yeah, he made $100,000 a year hauling lumber. Oh, don't you talk about him that way. He was dirty. No, I want it. No, you want it. No, you want it. And well, Peter brings up the Venkman fan site. Why is he hating on me and won't even let me know I have them? Oh, well, that's bad. That's not that's not nice. I'll leave it at that. That's not nice. That's just wrong. That's when they need Jesus. Jesus to deliver them. Oh, deliver them, baby. Oh, you go. Yeah, that is so wrong. Oh, oh, Lord. Oh, Lord, give me the strength. Give me the strength. Oh, Lord. Oh, no. And Fan says, all my aunts are older and more tech savvy than my mom, and she's the youngest. So yes, she, you know, right, you know exactly what I'm talking about with forever just speak so put the blind or I don't know where that situation's going on there. What's going here? What is this? What is this? I don't want it. I don't want it. You don't talk about him that way. He was a good boy. You know he was dirty, ma. Yeah, Lois, you mind shutting your vag? Yeah, geez, that's a good army. Yeah. Oh. Hmm. Oh, Jenny. Oh, Jenny. Oh, Jenny. Oh my God, Richard, Jenny. Your HBO stand-up specials have brought laughter to millions. And what a sweet ass. If any of you know, remember who Richard Jenny is, just say so. I don't think that many people do, but okay. What did you say? Nothing. I just told them I put their names on the Montgomery Ward mailing list. Eggman says there, I didn't even know I had gift memberships for another channel. I couldn't access the emojis. Well, okay. That's he's finding that strange. He's finding that strange. But hey, that's just par for the course. And any last minute messages you've got, any last minute memberships you've got, any last minute donations to the store you've got, this is the moment to bring them in as we wind down the stream so that I can then get ready because I got to get up early right then and there. So until then, I want to thank you all for watching. Subscribe to the channel to hit 10,000 subs. Become a member today and shop my art store at the second link below where you can buy my art or you can commission me, or you can support me with a donation right in there directly. And besides that, remember, even with my traveling, tomorrow I will still have shorts at 5 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 and 6. My video will premiere at 6:30, and I should be alive at 10. And well. Until then, felines, slam it, lick it, suck it, and see you, Space Cowboy.